A dimly lit room. Military officials gathered around a long conference table. Tension hangs in the air like smoke. A countdown clock ticks on the wall. October 27th, 1962. Hour 11 of the Cuban Missile Crisis. The world stands on the precipice of nuclear war. An older man in military uniform, Colonel William Morgan, frantically writes a letter at his desk. If we don't survive today, what I'm building may be America's last hope. Flash forward to present day. An elegant law office. The Morgan family in expensive attire waits expectantly. And to my granddaughter, Sarah Morgan, I leave $1. Laughter erupts around the room. The camera zooms in on Sarah's face, a 36-year-old single mother in modest clothing. That's it? The lawyer leans in, speaking quietly. This coin isn't what it appears, Ms. Morgan. It's the key to a legacy your grandfather protected for 60 years. The commemorative dollar gleams under the light. The camera zooms to reveal intricate numbers etched along its edge. A prestigious law office in downtown Boston. Mahogany panels, leather chairs, oil paintings of stern-faced men in suits. The Morgan family sits around a massive conference table, all dressed in designer clothes, all wearing expressions of anticipation. Herbert Reynolds, 65, silver-haired with wire-rimmed glasses, stands at the head of the table reading from a thick document. His voice carries the weight of formality. I, William Morgan, Colonel, United States Army, retired, being of sound mind, do hereby bequeath my assets as follows. James Bradford, 60, sits forward in his chair, distinguished with the posture of a man accustomed to command. His eyes gleam with barely contained eagerness. To my nephew, Peter Morgan, I leave my collection of military memorabilia and the sum of $2 million. A thin man in an expensive suit nods appreciatively. To my niece, Catherine Drummond, I leave my vacation property in the Berkshires and the sum of $1 million. A woman in her 50s smiles and squeezes her husband's hand. To the Morgan Family Foundation, I leave $10 million to continue its charitable work. Murmurs of approval around the table. James Bradford leans back, confidence in his expression. To my business partner and friend, James Bradford, I leave my shares in Morgan Strategic Consultants, valued at approximately $8 million. Bradford smiles, satisfied. And to my granddaughter, Sarah Morgan, I leave $1. Silence falls, then laughter erupts around the table. The camera finds Sarah Morgan, 36, sitting at the far end of the table, copper red hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing a department store dress among designer suits. Her face flushes with embarrassment. A commemorative dollar? That's it? Bradford's laughter is the loudest. Well, Bill always did have a sense of humor. Sorry, Sarah. Looks like you didn't make the cut. Sarah accepts the coin from Reynolds, examining the silver dollar with the presidential seal and her grandfather's initials engraved along the edge. That concludes the reading of the will. Thank you all for coming. As the family gathers their belongings, Reynolds approaches Sarah privately. Ms. Morgan, might I have a word? Sarah clutches the dollar coin, anger and hurt visible in her eyes. What's there to say? He made his feelings clear. Reynolds looks around cautiously. Your grandfather was many things, but cruel wasn't one of them. This dollar isn't what it appears to be. Sarah scoffs. It appears to be exactly $1, which is apparently what I was worth to him. Reynolds lowers his voice. I need to show you something, not here. Tomorrow, if possible. Sarah hesitates, then nods curtly before walking away. Bradford approaches, placing a sympathetic hand on Sarah's shoulder. Don't take it personally. Your grandfather was a complicated man. If you need any help financially, my door is always open, for old time's sake. Sarah removes his hand. I don't need your charity, James. Bradford's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Of course not. You never did accept help easily. Just like your father. A small one-bedroom apartment in a modest neighborhood. Faded wallpaper, furniture showing wear but meticulously clean. Sarah sits at a kitchen table covered with bills and past due notices. The commemorative dollar sits before her. She picks it up, turning it in the light. Her finger traces the edge where her grandfather's initials, WM, are engraved alongside what appear to be random numbers and letters. A knock at the door. Sarah opens it to reveal her ex-husband, Richard Morgan, 38, handsome in an expensive suit. Behind him stand two children, Matthew, 13, with his father's features but Sarah's copper hair, and Emma, 8, a younger version of Sarah with bright, curious eyes. You're late. Richard checks his watch. Actually, we're right on time. 7 o'clock, as agreed. Emma rushes forward to hug Sarah. Mom, I got an A on my butterfly project. Sarah embraces her daughter. That's wonderful, sweetie. I knew you could do it. Matthew enters without greeting, immediately plugging earbuds into his ears. Matthew, aren't you going to say hello to your mother? The boy shrugs. Hi. Richard hands Sarah a manila envelope. The custody hearing documents. My lawyer made some modifications to the visitation schedule. Given your financial situation, we think it's best if the kids stay with me during the school week. Sarah takes the envelope. You can't just change the schedule without consulting me. Richard lowers his voice. Sarah, be reasonable. You're working 2 jobs. Your apartment has 1 bedroom. The kids share the pull-out couch when they're here. I have a 4-bedroom house with a yard. I can provide stability. Sarah's jaw tightens. I'm their mother. Richard sighs. No one's disputing that. But the court will look at who can provide the best environment. Bradford Industries just promoted me to VP of Operations. My salary's doubled. Sarah's eyes narrow. So you're working directly for James now? Richard nods. He's been a great mentor. Listen, I heard about the will reading. I'm sorry your grandfather didn't leave you anything substantial. Sarah fingers the coin in her pocket. I'm fine, I don't need handouts. As Richard turns to leave, he hesitates. The hearing's in 2 weeks. Think about what's best for the kids, not your pride. After Richard and the children leave, Sarah returns to the table. She picks up the dollar again, examining it closely. She notices that the sequence of numbers along the edge appears to form a pattern. She reaches for her laptop. The Bluebird Diner, a classic American eatery with chrome fixtures and red vinyl booths. Sarah, wearing a waitress uniform, refills coffee cups with practiced efficiency. Grace Chen, 40, Asian American, sits at the counter nursing a cup of coffee. She's dressed professionally but simply, with an observant, intelligent air. Rough morning? Sarah forces a smile as she tops off Grace's cup. Is it that obvious? Grace gestures at Sarah's hand. You've been rubbing that coin for the past hour like it's a magic lamp. Sarah looks down, realizing she's been fidgeting with the dollar. Just a keepsake. My grandfather's funeral was yesterday. Grace offers a sympathetic smile. I'm sorry for your loss. Sarah's phone buzzes. She checks it and frowns. Everything okay? Sarah sighs. Lawyer stuff. My ex wants to change our custody arrangement. Grace tilts her head thoughtfully. I don't mean to pry, but I might know someone who could help. I'm a consultant for nonprofits specializing in family advocacy. Sarah considers this as she pockets her phone. Thanks, but I can handle it. Grace leaves her card on the counter. Just in case you change your mind, Sarah's manager calls from the kitchen. Sarah, phone call. Some lawyer named Reynolds. A county courthouse. Grand stone columns, broad steps, intimidating architecture. Sarah walks up the steps, clutching a worn leather briefcase. Inside, a crowded courtroom. Sarah sits beside her public defender, Marcia Santos, a harried woman in her 50s with a stack of files. Across the aisle, Richard sits with his attorney, an expensive-looking man in a tailored suit. James Bradford sits directly behind them, radiating confidence. Judge Harriet Klein, 60s, peers over reading glasses at the file before her. This is a continuation of custody proceedings for Matthew and Emma Morgan, minors aged 13 and 8. I've reviewed the reports from the court-appointed evaluator and the financial disclosures from both parties. Sarah grips the edge of the table, the commemorative dollar pressed against her palm inside her pocket. Mr. Morgan provides health insurance, private school tuition, and has maintained the family home, providing consistency for the children during this transition. Ms. Morgan, while clearly devoted to her children, works variable shifts and resides in a 1-bedroom apartment where the children must share the living room when they visit. Sarah's throat tightens. Your Honor, my client has applied for assistant manager positions at 3 establishments and is enrolled in night classes to complete her associate's degree. Her dedication to improving her situation while maintaining close bonds with her children should be considered. Richard's attorney stands. Intent doesn't provide stability, Your Honor. The children's academic records show improved performance during periods when they're primarily in my client's care. Mr. Morgan has created a home office to allow him more flexibility around the children's schedules. Judge Klein looks thoughtful. After careful consideration, I am granting primary physical custody to Mr. Morgan, with Ms. Morgan to have visitation every other weekend and one evening dinner visit per week. The words hit Sarah like physical blows. Primary custody to Richard. She would see her children only 6 days a month. Your Honor, please. Judge Klein cuts her off firmly but not unkindly. This arrangement can be revisited in 6 months if your circumstances change substantially, Ms. Morgan. I encourage you to continue your education and secure more stable employment. The gavel comes down with finality. Outside the courtroom, Sarah stands frozen as Richard and his attorney gather their papers. Bradford watches with poorly concealed satisfaction. Richard approaches Sarah. I'll have Matthew and Emma call you tonight. Maybe this will motivate you to get your life together. Sarah remains silent, clutching her purse where the dollar coin sits. As Richard leaves with Bradford, Sarah's phone rings. Herbert Reynolds again. She answers, her voice hollow. Mr. Reynolds, this is Sarah Morgan. Reynolds' voice is urgent. Miss Morgan, I heard about the ruling. I'm truly sorry. This makes what I need to show you even more important. Can you meet me in an hour? Sarah looks back at the courtroom doors. What's the point now? Because what I'm about to show you could change everything, especially for Matthew and Emma. Reynolds' black Audi drives along the highway, leaving Boston behind. Sarah watches as urban sprawl gives way to suburbs, then to rolling countryside. Where exactly are we going? Reynolds adjusts his glasses. Hampshire County. Your grandfather owned significant acreage there. Sarah frowns. I thought James got all the property. Reynolds corrects her. He received the commercial holdings in the family estate. This property was held separately in a trust with very specific terms. The car climbs higher into the hills before cresting a ridge. Reynolds pulls over at a scenic overlook and turns off the engine. Before we go further, I need to see the coin. Sarah hesitates, then withdraws the dollar from her pocket. Reynolds examines it closely, turning it to catch the light on the engraved edge. Colonel Morgan was a visionary, and much more sentimental than people realized. Reynolds gestures toward the windshield. Look down there. Sarah leans forward, gazing into the valley below. At first, she sees only forest and a winding river. Then she notices structures scattered throughout the trees connected by roads. Solar panels glint on rooftops. A larger building stands near what appears to be a small dam on the river. What is that? That is Eagle Point, your inheritance. The Audi approaches a gate set into a high fence that stretches in both directions into the forest. The gate is simple but solid, with Eagle Point arched across the top. Reynolds stops at a security panel beside the gate. The coin is the key, quite literally. He indicates a coin-shaped slot in the panel. Sarah inserts the dollar. The gate swings open silently. The road opens onto a circular clearing with a fountain at its center. Around the perimeter stand what appear to be a community center and several smaller buildings. People are visible, working in garden plots, walking along paths, carrying supplies between buildings. As Reynolds parks, Sarah notices something strange. The people have stopped what they're doing and are gathering, looking toward the car with anticipation. Do they know we're coming? Reynolds nods. They've been waiting for you for quite some time. Sarah steps out uncertainly. A woman in her early 60s approaches, her silver hair pulled back in a practical braid, her weathered face breaking into a warm smile. Sarah Morgan, I'm Grace Chen. We've been waiting to meet you. Sarah recognizes the woman from the diner. You were at the Bluebird this morning. Grace smiles apologetically. I wanted to get a sense of who you were before we met officially. I hope you'll forgive the subterfuge. Sarah shakes her head in confusion. I don't understand what's happening here. Grace gestures around them. This is Eagle Point, a self-sustaining community your grandfather established 20 years ago. And now it's yours. The community center is a 2-story building with wide windows and a broad porch. Inside, Sarah finds a large common room with a kitchen, dining area, and comfortable seating. Bookshelves line one wall, and a bulletin board displays community announcements and duty rosters. Grace leads Sarah through the space. We gather here for meals 3 times a week. Otherwise, each home has its own kitchenette. The second floor has classrooms, a medical station, and our communication center. Sarah tries to take it all in. How many people live here? 63 adults and 12 children. Most are veterans or former government employees. Others are specialists in sustainable living, engineering, or medicine. Your grandfather selected each of us personally. A man in his 40s enters, using forearm crutches but moving with purpose and confidence. Athletic build, military haircut, intelligent eyes. Daniel Prescott, former Special Forces. I maintain the infrastructure here. Sarah shakes his hand, noting his firm grip. This is, overwhelming. My grandfather never mentioned any of this. Daniel exchanges a glance with Grace. The colonel operated on a need-to-know basis. Old habits die hard. Herbert Reynolds joins them, carrying a sealed envelope. Perhaps this will help. Your grandfather left this letter for you, to be opened only when you arrived here. With trembling fingers, Sarah breaks the seal and unfolds the letter inside. The handwriting is familiar, the same script that signed birthday cards during her childhood. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, then Herbert has fulfilled his promise to bring you to Eagle Point. The dollar coin that seems so insignificant is actually the key to my true legacy, and now yours. Eagle Point represents my life's most important work, a community built on principles of self-reliance, mutual support, and preparedness. The residents are extraordinary people who share these values, though they don't yet know it was originally your vision that inspired this place. Do you remember that school project when you were 10? You designed what you called the perfect town, sustainable, cooperative, and in harmony with nature. While others dismissed it as a child's fantasy, I saw wisdom in it. I've left the bulk of my fortune to others because they value only money. But to you, my true heir in spirit, I leave something far more precious, a living legacy and the means to expand it. The Eagle Point Trust owns this land and provides for its basic operations. As trustee, you will have both the responsibility and the resources to guide its future. Why the secrecy? I've learned that true character reveals itself when people believe there is nothing to be gained. You alone have the heart to steward this community as it deserves. With love and faith, Grandfather William. Sarah lowers the letter, tears blurring her vision. I don't understand. He barely spoke to me after my father died. Why would he leave me this? Daniel's expression softens. The colonel was a complicated man. He wasn't good at showing his feelings, but he spoke of you often. Grace adds gently, there's more to show you. Would you like to see where you'll be staying? The trustee residence is a cabin slightly larger than the other homes, with a bedroom, office, kitchen, and comfortable living area. Large windows overlook the community and the valley beyond. This is where your grandfather stayed when he visited. Sarah wanders through the cabin, trailing her fingers over furniture her grandfather had used. On the desk in the office, she finds framed photographs. One of herself as a child sitting on William's lap, another of the valley before development began. She sinks into the desk chair, emotionally exhausted. The custody hearing feels like it happened days ago instead of hours. Reynolds enters with a folder. There's something else you should know. The trust includes a significant stipend for the trustee. How significant? $15,000 monthly, plus health care coverage and educational funds for your children. Colonel Morgan was very clear about this. The trustee's well-being was paramount to the community's success. Sarah stares at him in shock. $15,000 a month? With that kind of money, I could provide everything the court deemed necessary for my children. I could petition for a custody review immediately. Reynolds nods. Exactly. Your grandfather anticipated this situation. The trust is ironclad. Bradford Industries has been trying to get control of this land for years, but they can't touch it. It belongs to the trust, and you are the sole trustee. Sarah tries to process this. James knew about this place? Of course. Why do you think he was so smug at the will reading? He thought the colonel had cut you out completely, which would have strengthened his position. Sarah's expression hardens. He's been working with Richard. My ex-husband works for Bradford now. Reynolds looks concerned. That complicates things. Bradford is ruthless in business. If he wants this land, he won't stop at manipulation. Sarah gazes out the window at the peaceful community below. Why does he want it so badly? That's something you should discuss with Daniel. There's more to Eagle Point than meets the eye. Sarah follows Daniel along a path to the river where a small dam creates a reservoir upstream. The control station is a modest building of concrete and steel, humming with the sound of turbines. Eagle Point is completely self-sufficient. This hydroelectric system provides all our power, with excess sold back to the grid for income. Sarah studies the sophisticated monitoring equipment. This is military-grade technology. Daniel nods. Most of our systems are. Your grandfather had connections. He leads her to a secure door with another coin-shaped slot. This section requires your authorization. Sarah inserts the dollar coin. The door slides open to reveal a command center with multiple monitoring stations, communications equipment, and a large situation map on the wall. What is all this? Daniel takes a deep breath. This is where it gets complicated. Eagle Point isn't just a sustainable community, it's a government contingency facility. Sarah turns to him in shock. A what? Daniel gestures to the map. After the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, your grandfather was part of a top-secret program called Project Mercury Recovery. Their mission was to establish a network of self-sustaining communities that could maintain government continuity in case of catastrophic attack. Photos on the wall show a younger Colonel Morgan in uniform, standing beside military and government officials. The program was defunded in the 1980s, but your grandfather believed in the mission. He purchased this site from the government and continued development privately. Eagle Point is one of the only functional facilities of its kind in the country. Sarah stares at him. You're telling me my grandfather built a doomsday bunker? Daniel smiles slightly. We prefer resilience community. But essentially, yes, everyone here was selected for their skills and reliability. Most have government or military backgrounds. We maintain constant readiness for any scenario. Natural disaster, technological collapse, conflict. Sarah shakes her head in disbelief. And this is what James Bradford wants? Daniel's expression darkens. Bradford Industries has been trying to acquire this land for years. They claim they want to develop it, but what they're really after is underneath us. He points to a geological survey on the wall. Rare earth minerals, essential for advanced electronics, weapon systems, renewable energy. The valley sits on one of the richest deposits in North America, worth billions. Sarah processes this. So James wants to mine the land? Daniel nods, and in the process destroy everything your grandfather built. But there's more. Bradford was part of Project Mercury in its early days. He knows what's here, not just the minerals, but the technology, the systems your grandfather developed. Military applications worth just as much as the minerals. Sarah looks around the command center with new understanding. This is why the secrecy, the dollar coin, the hidden trust. Daniel agrees. Your grandfather knew Bradford would try to take control after his death. This was his way of ensuring Eagle Point stayed protected. Sarah's phone chimes with a text message. She checks it, and her expression brightens. It's Richard. He's bringing the kids this weekend for a visit. Daniel watches her. Your grandfather planned for that too. He believed once you saw this place, you'd want to bring your children here. Sarah looks at him with determination. If what you're saying is true, then I need to understand everything about Eagle Point before they arrive. I need to know exactly what I've inherited. Daniel nods, respect in his eyes. Then let's start with the most important part. The people who call this place home. A montage of Sarah meeting community members, Dr. Marcus Wells, 55, in the medical facility, showing Sarah the advanced equipment. Eagle Point has better medical technology than most rural hospitals. Your grandfather believed healthcare was a cornerstone of true independence. Robert Coleman, 50, at the security center, demonstrating surveillance systems. We maintain a secure perimeter with minimal visibility. Most people in the surrounding area think this is just a private nature preserve. Sarah in the greenhouses with elderly residents tending exotic plants. These aren't just for food. Many are medicinal. We can produce most basic pharmaceuticals on-site if needed. Children in a classroom with a teacher using advanced technology. Our educational system combines traditional skills with cutting-edge science. Your grandfather believed in preparing the next generation for any future. Daniel leads Sarah to a ridge overlooking the entire valley. So what do you think? Sarah gazes at the community below. It's incredible. All these people have been living here, working together, while the rest of the world had no idea. Daniel nods. That was the point, to create something that could survive independently, no matter what happened outside. Sarah turns to him. But the world didn't end. There was no nuclear war. Why maintain all this? Daniel looks thoughtful. Your grandfather used to say, the world ends in different ways for different people. For some, it's economic collapse. For others, it's technological failure or natural disaster. Eagle Point isn't about doomsday. It's about resilience, being prepared for whatever comes. Sarah studies him. And you believe in this mission? Daniel's expression becomes personal. I was in Afghanistan when our base was cut off for 3 weeks. No supplies, no communication. Most of my team didn't make it. After I recovered, your grandfather recruited me. Said I understood something most Americans never have to learn. How quickly civilization can disappear. Sarah absorbs this. And now I'm in charge of all this? Daniel smiles. The colonel believed you had the right spirit. He said you were like your father, principled, resourceful. Sarah's expression clouds. My father died when I was 12. Car accident. Daniel looks away. I know. The colonel mentioned it. Sarah senses there's more to this story but doesn't press. I need to prepare for my children's visit. Can you show me back to the cabin? A sleek corporate headquarters in downtown Boston. James Bradford sits at the head of a conference table, Richard Morgan beside him. Executives in expensive suits review presentations on tablet computers. Bradford addresses the room. The Eagle Point acquisition is our top priority this quarter. The rare earth minerals alone would position Bradford Industries as a market leader in advanced materials for the next decade. He brings up a geological survey on the main screen. Current estimates value the deposit at over $3 billion. Our mining division has already developed an extraction plan that would begin yielding returns within 18 months of acquisition. Richard speaks up. There may be a complication. Sarah has been named trustee of the Eagle Point property. Bradford's expression darkens. How is that possible? William assured me the property would revert to the Morgan Foundation, which I control. Richard looks uncomfortable. Apparently, he created a separate trust with Sarah as the sole beneficiary. She's already visited the property. Bradford controls his anger. This changes nothing. If anything, it makes our job easier. Sarah has no experience managing assets of this magnitude. She'll be eager to sell when she hears our offer. He turns to another executive. Double the initial offer to $10 million. That kind of money would be life-changing for someone in her position. Richard shifts in his seat. There's something else. The custody hearing went as planned. I have primary custody of the children. But with her new financial situation, Sarah will likely petition for a review. Bradford considers this. Then we use that. The children are your leverage. Make sure she understands that cooperating with Bradford Industries would reflect positively on her parental fitness. Richard looks troubled but nods. Yes, sir. After the meeting, Bradford holds Richard back. I need you to stay close to this situation. Your connection to Sarah is valuable. Richard hesitates. James, these are my children we're talking about. Using them as leverage feels wrong. Bradford's voice hardens. Remember who secured your promotion, Richard. Remember who's paying for your children's private education and your waterfront home. We're offering Sarah a fortune for land she didn't even know existed a week ago. Everyone wins. Richard nods reluctantly. I understand. Bradford smiles, clapping Richard on the shoulder. Good man. Now tell me everything you know about Eagle Point. Sarah sits at the desk in the trustee cabin, reviewing trust documents. Herbert Reynolds sits across from her, explaining the details. The trust is structured with 3 layers of protection. First, the land itself is held in perpetuity for the purposes outlined in the charter, namely the maintenance of a self-sustaining community. Second, all decisions requiring sale or fundamental change require unanimous consent from the community council plus the trustee. Third, there's a federal security directive classifying certain aspects of Eagle Point as matter of national security. Sarah tries to process all this. So even if I wanted to sell, I couldn't do it alone? Reynolds shakes his head. The colonel designed it that way deliberately. Eagle Point isn't just property. It's a mission, a community, a legacy. Sarah sets aside the documents. Tell me about my father. Daniel mentioned that my grandfather talked about him. Reynolds looks uncomfortable. John Morgan was a brilliant man, investigative journalist. He had your grandfather's integrity and determination. Sarah presses. My mother never talked much about how he died, just that it was a car accident. Reynolds chooses his words carefully. That's the official record, yes. Your grandfather accepted that finding publicly. Sarah catches his phrasing. Publicly? What does that mean? Before Reynolds can answer, there's a knock at the door. Daniel enters. Sorry to interrupt, but we've detected unusual activity at the perimeter. Someone's conducting surveillance of Eagle Point. Reynolds stands immediately. Bradford didn't waste any time. Sarah looks between them. What does this mean? Daniel's expression is grim. It means Bradford is gathering intelligence, preparing his next move. Sarah's determination hardens. Then we need to be ready for him. Show me everything I need to know about defending Eagle Point. Early morning mist shrouds the forest. Sarah follows Daniel and Robert Coleman along the fence line. They stop at a section where surveillance equipment has been installed. Robert points to a small device attached to a tree outside the fence. Motion sensor and camera. Military grade. Someone's monitoring our movements. Daniel carefully removes the device without triggering it. Bradford's getting serious. These aren't commercially available. Sarah looks concerned. Can they see inside the community? Robert shakes his head. Our countermeasures prevent deep surveillance, but they're mapping our perimeter, studying patterns. Daniel pockets the device. We should accelerate security protocols, and Sarah needs to understand the full defensive capabilities. Robert nods in agreement. The colonel would want her to know everything now. Sarah looks between them. There's more I haven't seen, isn't there? Daniel's expression is solemn. Much more. Your grandfather built Eagle Point to withstand almost any threat, including direct assault. Back in the dam's command center, Daniel leads Sarah to a wall that appears solid. He places her dollar coin in another hidden slot, and the wall slides open to reveal a secure elevator. The elevator descends deep underground. When the doors open, Sarah gasps. A vast underground facility stretches before them. Military-grade equipment, supply stockpiles, advanced communication systems, and what appears to be a small manufacturing center. Welcome to Level B, the heart of Eagle Point. Sarah stares in amazement. My grandfather built all this? Daniel nods. With help from his former military colleagues, this facility can sustain the entire community for years if necessary. Air filtration, water purification, food production, medical facilities, even small-scale manufacturing. He leads her through the facility, pointing out key systems, geothermal power backup, communications array that can reach anywhere in the world, even if conventional networks fail. Enough medical supplies to run a field hospital. Sarah shakes her head in disbelief. This isn't just a community, it's a fortress. Daniel stops at a sealed door marked classified. There's one more thing you need to see, something only the trustee has access to. He gestures to a biometric scanner. Your grandfather programmed this to recognize your DNA. It's been waiting for you. Sarah hesitantly places her hand on the scanner. The light turns green, and the door unlocks with a hiss. Inside is a small room with a single computer terminal. As Sarah approaches, the screen activates automatically. A video begins to play, showing Colonel William Morgan in his office, recording a message. Sarah, if you're watching this, then I'm gone, and you've accepted your role as trustee of Eagle Point. There are things you need to know that I couldn't tell you while I was alive. Truths that would have put you in danger. Eagle Point is more than a sustainable community or a survival facility. It's the culmination of a promise I made in October 1962, during the darkest hours of the Cuban Missile Crisis. The video shows historical footage of military personnel during the crisis. I was stationed at Strategic Command when we came within minutes of nuclear war. That experience changed me forever. I saw how fragile our civilization truly is, how quickly everything we take for granted could disappear. When the crisis ended, I made a vow to create a place that could preserve not just human life, but the best of human knowledge, values, and cooperation. A seed from which America could regrow if the worst happened. The video returns to Colonel Morgan. Project Mercury began as a government initiative, but politics and budget cuts eventually killed the official program. I couldn't let the vision die, so I continued privately, using my own resources and connections. Eagle Point is the only fully realized Mercury facility in existence. Its value goes beyond money. It's a living blueprint for resilience that could save countless lives in a crisis. Which brings me to James Bradford. He was once part of Project Mercury, but he saw it only as an opportunity for profit. When the government canceled the program, he took the knowledge and technologies we developed to start Bradford Industries. Colonel Morgan's expression hardens. Bradford has been trying to acquire Eagle Point for years, not just for the minerals beneath it, but for the advanced systems and designs we've perfected. In his hands, these would become proprietary technologies sold to the highest bidder, not resources for the common good. I've entrusted Eagle Point to you because you have something Bradford lacks: integrity. You understand that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the strength of communities and the principles that bind them together. The dollar coin was my insurance policy, a key that only you would recognize and a test to reveal Bradford's true character. By publicly leaving you just $1, I forced him to show his hand, believing he had won. The colonel's expression softens. I know this responsibility comes at a difficult time in your life, but I believe in you, Sarah. You have your father's courage and your own unique vision. Eagle Point needs both. Trust Daniel Prescott and the core team. They've dedicated their lives to this mission. And when you're ready, there's one more truth waiting for you about your father and the real reason I've chosen you as my heir. I love you, Sarah. I'm sorry I couldn't be more present in your life. This legacy is my attempt to make amends and to give you and your children the security and purpose I couldn't provide in person. The video ends, leaving Sarah stunned. Daniel waits respectfully as she processes what she's heard. Did you know about this? About my father? Daniel looks uncomfortable. The colonel shared some details with me, but he wanted you to discover the full truth in your own time. Sarah stares at the blank screen. My whole life I thought he barely noticed me, that he blamed me somehow for my father's death. Daniel shakes his head. It was the opposite. He stayed away to protect you. Sarah stands, her expression resolute. I need to understand everything about Eagle Point before my children arrive, and I need to be ready for whatever Bradford is planning. A silver SUV approaches the main gate. Richard drives with Matthew and Emma in the back seat. Sarah waits at the gate, nervousness and excitement visible in her posture. As the vehicle stops, Emma tumbles out, her dark curls bouncing. At 8, she's all energy and curiosity, though her greeting is more subdued than usual. Mom! Sarah embraces her daughter tightly. Hi, sweetie. I've missed you so much. Matthew emerges more slowly, 13 and increasingly conscious of his dignity. He offers a stilted greeting. Hey, Mom, what is this place? Richard steps out last, his expression carefully neutral as he surveys the entrance to Eagle Point. This is, unexpected. Sarah stands taller, confidence in her bearing that wasn't there before. My grandfather left me this place. It's called Eagle Point, a sustainable community. Richard raises an eyebrow. Grandfather William built this? Looks rustic. Sarah smiles slightly. It's much more than it appears. Would you like to come in for a moment? Richard checks his watch. I have a meeting back in the city. I'll pick them up at 7. After Richard drives away, Sarah turns to her children with forced brightness. Want the grand tour? There's a treehouse library you might like, Emma. And Matthew, wait until you see the solar array and dam system. Emma perks up at the mention of a treehouse, but Matthew shrugs noncommittally. Dad says this is just some weird eco-commune. Are there even flush toilets? Sarah laughs. Yes, there are flush toilets and high-speed internet, hot showers, and everything else you're used to, just in a more sustainable package. A montage of Sarah showing her children around Eagle Point. Emma in the butterfly garden with other children, delighted by the colorful insects. This is like my school project, but way bigger. Matthew initially skeptical in the tech center, then increasingly interested as Daniel shows him the advanced systems. You're saying this whole place runs on renewable energy? How do you handle storage capacity during low production periods? Sarah watches her children begin to engage with the community, hope blooming in her expression. Later, at the dam control station, Daniel is explaining the hydroelectric system to an attentive Matthew. Your mom tells me you're into engineering. This system generates enough power for the whole community, plus some we sell back to the grid. Matthew leans forward with interest. How does it regulate during heavy rainfall? Daniel launches into a technical explanation that clearly engages the boy. You should see our drone system sometime. Matthew's eyes light up. You have drones? I built one for my science club last semester. No kidding. You'll have to tell me about it. Sarah observes this interaction with amazement, seeing her withdrawn son open up in a way he hasn't in months. By evening, the visit has evolved beyond Sarah's cautious hopes. Emma has joined a game with other children and made fast friends with a 9-year-old girl named Maya. Matthew has spent hours with Daniel discussing engineering concepts. As they eat dinner on the cabin's porch, watching fireflies rise from the meadow, Emma asks the question Sarah has been waiting for. Are we going to live here with you, Mom? Sarah takes her daughter's hand. I'm working on it, sweetie. I've asked the judge to look at our case again. Matthew frowns. But what about school? My friends? The robotics competition is next month. We'd figure all that out. There's a learning center here, but you could still attend your current school if that's what you want. It's about a 40-minute drive. Matthew looks skeptical. Dad says this place will probably get shut down. He says it's built on valuable mining land and that his boss's company will take it over eventually. Sarah's expression grows serious. Your father doesn't have all the information. This land is protected by a very solid legal trust. It's not going anywhere. The sound of tires on gravel announces Richard's return. Sarah walks the children to the parking area, her heart heavy with the impending separation. I love you both so much. I'll see you next weekend, and we'll finish exploring. Emma hugs her fiercely. I want to come back. Maya said I could help in the butterfly garden. Matthew is more reserved but manages a small smile. The drone thing sounds cool. After the children climb into the SUV, Richard approaches Sarah. Quite the setup you found yourself in. Just don't get too comfortable. James Bradford isn't known for taking no for an answer, and he's convinced this land is rightfully his. Sarah meets his gaze directly. Is that why you've been talking to him about me? Planning how to undermine my custody petition? Richard has the grace to look uncomfortable. I'm being practical, Sarah. A settlement with Bradford Industries would secure our children's future better than this. Experiment in communal living. You mean it would secure your future? What did he promise you? A finder's fee? A promotion? Richard sighs, turning away. You always were idealistic. Some things never change. As the SUV disappears down the access road, Sarah stands alone in the gathering dusk. But something has changed. She is no longer the woman who stood broken outside that courtroom. Daniel approaches, respectful of her moment of reflection. Your children seem like remarkable young people. Sarah nods, wiping away a tear. They are. And I'm going to make sure they have the chance to be part of Eagle Point. Daniel looks thoughtful. Bradford will make his move soon. We should be prepared. Sarah's expression hardens with determination. Then let's get ready. I need to understand everything about my inheritance, especially the truth about my father. The camera pulls back to show Eagle Point as night falls, lights glowing warmly in the community buildings, the dam standing solid against the flow of the river, and Sarah Morgan standing tall, transformed from a woman who had lost everything to one who had found an unexpected legacy and purpose. Sarah and Daniel walk along a moonlit path toward the dam. Their conversation is serious, purposeful. We've reviewed all the security systems, the community resources. What else do I need to know? Daniel hesitates. There's one more thing your grandfather wanted you to see. Something he built for a scenario he hoped would never come. He leads her to a section of the dam wall that appears solid. Using her dollar coin in yet another hidden slot, a door slides open, revealing a narrow passage. What is this? This is the Mercury Vault. Only 2 people knew of its existence, your grandfather and me. The passage leads to a large circular chamber deep within the dam structure. The walls are lined with secure cabinets, computer servers, and what appears to be military communications equipment. At the center stands a display case containing an old military uniform and medals. Sarah recognizes her grandfather's colonel uniform. Beside it rests a leather-bound journal and a stack of folders marked classified. This facility was built to withstand even a direct nuclear strike. It contains copies of essential national documents, technical specifications for critical infrastructure, seed banks, medical knowledge, everything needed to rebuild society. Sarah stares in amazement. My grandfather really believed the worst could happen. Daniel nods solemnly. He lived through the closest call we ever had. October 27, 1962, the day we nearly launched nuclear weapons during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was at Strategic Command when a Soviet submarine nearly fired a nuclear torpedo at U.S. forces. He points to a framed photograph showing a young Colonel Morgan with other military officers in a bunker. That experience never left him. He dedicated his life to ensuring that if the worst happened, humanity would have a chance to recover. Not just survive, but rebuild with our best knowledge and values intact. Sarah approaches the journal. And now this responsibility falls to me? Daniel's expression is grave. There's more. Your grandfather wasn't just preparing for some hypothetical future disaster. He hands Sarah a folder from the display. He believed an imminent threat was developing. That's why he accelerated his plans in recent years, why he prepared you to take over now. Sarah opens the folder to find surveillance photos, reports, and maps related to Bradford Industries. Bradford isn't just after the minerals or the technology. He's after something specific in this vault, something your father discovered before he died. Sarah looks up sharply. What are you saying? Daniel takes a deep breath. Your father's car accident wasn't an accident, Sarah. He was investigating Bradford Industries for illegal weapons development using Mercury project technology. Technology that was supposed to be decommissioned decades ago. Sarah staggers back, the revelation hitting her like a physical blow. My father was murdered? Daniel nods grimly. Your grandfather spent years gathering evidence, building this case carefully. He couldn't move against Bradford directly, too powerful, too many connections. So he created this legacy for you, knowing Bradford would reveal himself when he thought the protection was gone. Sarah stares at the documents in her hands, her world shifting beneath her. So I'm not just inheriting a community, I'm inheriting my grandfather's mission and my father's fight for justice. The weight of this revelation settles on her shoulders as she looks around the vault, understanding at last the true magnitude of what the dollar coin has unlocked. Not just a property or a community, but a decades-long struggle against a powerful enemy, a mission with personal stakes she never imagined, and a chance to finally understand the father she lost too soon. The camera pulls back from Sarah's determined face to show the vast, secret chamber hidden within Eagle Point, a physical manifestation of the depths of her inheritance and the challenge that lies ahead. 2 weeks after Sarah's discovery of the truth in the Mercury Vault, rain pounds against the windows of the trustee cabin. Sarah sits at the desk, surrounded by her grandfather's files. Photographs and documents cover every surface. Her eyes are tired but determined. Daniel, we need to access these encrypted files. They could contain evidence linking Bradford to my father's death. I've been working on it. Your grandfather used military-grade encryption. It's going to take time. Time is something we don't have. Bradford Industries filed their mining permit application yesterday. They're moving faster than we anticipated. The county review board is stacked with Bradford allies. 3 of the 5 members have received campaign contributions from his subsidiaries. That's not a coincidence. No, it's not. Bradford's been planning this for years, waiting for your grandfather to die, thinking the protection would die with him. He didn't count on me. No, he didn't. That's our advantage. Bradford's arrogant. He underestimates you. Sarah lifts a photograph of her father from the desk. My father discovered something about Bradford Industries 24 years ago, something worth killing for. We need to find out what it was. The encryption is complex, but there's another approach. These old files reference a physical backup. Your grandfather was meticulous about redundancy. Where would he keep something like that? Somewhere secure. Somewhere only you would know to look. Sarah studies the photograph of her father again, noticing a building in the background. This photo? I know this place. It's the fishing cabin where my father used to take me. My grandfather owned it. Could your grandfather have hidden something there? It's worth checking. The cabin's about 2 hours from here, in the Berkshires. I'll arrange security while you're away. Bradford's surveillance has increased. We've detected drones making regular passes over our perimeter. Let's go tomorrow, after I meet with Herbert about the custody petition. The hearing is scheduled for next Friday. With your financial situation and stable housing at Eagle Point, we have a strong case for custody reconsideration. What about Bradford's influence with the judge? Judge Klein has a reputation for integrity. Even Bradford would think twice before attempting to influence her directly. And Richard? Will he fight this? His attorney has requested a delay, citing recent changes in circumstances that require further evaluation. It's a stalling tactic. Bradford's coaching him. They want time to find a way to discredit Eagle Point. Exactly. Which is why we need to move quickly with our own evidence. The children's visit last weekend helps our case. Their positive experience here demonstrates the suitability of their living environment. Emma hasn't stopped talking about coming back. Even Matthew seemed interested in the engineering projects. That's excellent. Children's preferences carry weight, especially as they get older. Matthew's age makes his opinion particularly relevant. And what about the documents we found in the vault? Can we use them? Not directly, they're still classified. But they establish the legitimacy of Eagle Point as a government-authorized project. That carries significant weight. Sarah notices a light flashing on one of the communication panels. Herbert, I need to go. We have an incoming security alert. Stay safe, Sarah. And remember, Bradford's most dangerous when he feels threatened. Sarah and Daniel stand with Robert Coleman at the main gate. A black SUV is parked just outside the fence. James Bradford and two security personnel wait beside it. He's got nerve showing up here himself. He wants to intimidate you. Show his confidence. Let him try him. Sarah approaches the gate. Bradford smiles, the picture of corporate charm. Sarah, you're looking well. Country living clearly agrees with you. What do you want, James? Direct as always. I've come to make you an offer, a generous one given the circumstances. I'm not selling Eagle Point. $10 million, Sarah, cash, for a property you didn't even know existed a month ago. Think what that would mean for you and your children. This community is worth far more than money. Bradford's smile doesn't waver, but his eyes harden. This community is sitting on top of strategic resources vital to national interests. Resources that Bradford Industries is uniquely positioned to develop responsibly. You mean exploit for profit. I mean utilize for the benefit of our country's technological future. These minerals are essential for everything from military applications to green energy. Would you really deny America these resources out of some misplaced loyalty to your grandfather's pet project? My grandfather understood the value of what's here better than anyone. That's why he protected it. Bradford glances at Daniel. Colonel Prescott, still fighting old wars, I see. Daniel's expression remains impassive. This isn't a war, Bradford. Unless you make it one. Bradford turns back to Sarah. $10 million is my first offer. It won't be my last. But time is a factor. Eagle Point has potential environmental issues that could complicate its future. Groundwater contamination, structural concerns with the dam. The county inspector's report makes for troubling reading. The report is fabricated and you know it. Bradford shrugs. The county board meets next week to review our mining application. I suggest you consider your position carefully before then. $10 million is life-changing money. It would guarantee your children's future. My children's future includes clean water and air, not a wasteland where Bradford Industries stripped away everything of value. Bradford's charm slips, revealing a flash of genuine anger. Don't be naive, Sarah. This isn't about your little sustainable dream. It's about resources this country needs. Resources I intend to develop one way or another. You're trespassing on private property. James, I suggest you leave before we contact the sheriff. Bradford's smile returns, cold and calculating. Richard sends his regards. He mentioned the children enjoyed their visit. Shame if something were to interrupt their next one. Is that a threat? Bradford opens his car door, a reality check. The world doesn't run on ideals, Sarah. It runs on power and resources. I have both. What do you have? A community, principles, and evidence of what you did to my father. Bradford freezes momentarily before recovering his composure. Your father's accident was a tragedy. Don't dishonor his memory with conspiracy theories. It wasn't an accident, and we both know it. Bradford stares at her for a long moment. Be careful, Sarah. You're playing a game you don't understand. He gets into his vehicle and drives away. Daniel steps forward. He's rattled. You hit a nerve mentioning your father. Good. But he'll retaliate. We need to accelerate our preparations. I'll double security and alert the community. Bradford doesn't make idle threats. No, he doesn't. And neither do I. The community gathers in the main hall. Sarah addresses everyone, her leadership now confident and clear. Bradford Industries is planning direct action against Eagle Point. Their inspection today was reconnaissance, nothing more. A resident asks about evacuation. Eagle Point was designed to withstand threats far greater than corporate mercenaries. We're not evacuating. We're defending what's ours. Another resident expresses concern. These are private security contractors with military training. We are civilians. Many of you are former military or law enforcement. Everyone here was selected partly for your ability to function in crisis situations. This is what my grandfather prepared us for. Grace outlines the defense strategy. We've activated all security protocols. Perimeter alerts, communication security, defensive positions. We're not initiating conflict, but we will protect ourselves if necessary. Robert adds tactical information. Bradford's team has established surveillance around our boundaries. They're monitoring movement in and out. Any departure will be tracked, Sarah continues, which is why I'll be leaving tonight. Bradford expects us to hunker down, to play defense. Instead, we're taking the fight to him. Concerned murmurs spread through the crowd. I need to contact someone who can provide critical evidence against Bradford. He dedicated his life to ensuring that the best of who we are would survive any calamity. Today, that calamity is James Bradford and his greed. We will not let him destroy what generations have built. The community responds with unified determination as Sarah prepares to depart. A small, rustic cabin beside a mountain lake. The property is isolated, surrounded by dense forest. Sarah and Daniel approach cautiously, checking for signs of intrusion. Looks untouched. No one's been here in years. My father and I used to come here every summer. After he died, I couldn't bear to visit anymore. Inside, the cabin is dusty but intact. Fishing gear hangs on the walls. A stone fireplace dominates one end of the main room. Nothing's changed. It's exactly as I remember it. Where would your grandfather hide something important? Sarah looks around, remembering. The loose floorboard by the fireplace. My father used to hide little treasures for me to find. Daniel helps her move a small rug, revealing a floorboard that shifts slightly when pressed. Beneath it is a metal lockbox with a familiar coin-shaped slot. Another dollar coin lock. Sarah inserts her coin. The box opens to reveal a waterproof case containing a portable hard drive, a handwritten journal, and a set of microfiche slides. These dates match the files we found in the vault. But these aren't encrypted. My grandfather wanted me to have direct access to this information. Sarah examines the journal while Daniel checks the hard drive. It's a detailed account of my father's investigation into Bradford Industries, starting in '98 and ending the day before he died. What was he investigating? According to this, Bradford was developing weaponized applications of Mercury project technology, specifically something called Prometheus. Sarah reviews the journal entries with growing horror. Bradford diverted classified technology from the Mercury project, technology designed for sustainable communities, and repurposed it for military applications. Weapon systems that could operate independently if Central Command was destroyed, the ultimate fail-safe, or the ultimate autonomous threat. My father discovered that Bradford was selling prototypes to foreign interests, private military contractors, governments with questionable human rights records. That would be high treason. Exactly. My father was compiling evidence for a major expose. He had a source inside Bradford Industries, someone with direct knowledge of the Prometheus program. A whistleblower? Yes. Referred to only as Helios in these notes. The night before my father died, he met with this source. The next day, his car went off the road on his way back from this cabin. No wonder Bradford looked shaken when you mentioned your father. If this evidence had come to light, he would have faced treason charges. Instead, my father died, the story died, and Bradford Industries grew into one of the largest defense contractors in the country. Sarah flips to the final entry in the journal. My father wrote that he hid the conclusive evidence somewhere safe, somewhere only Morgan Blood would find. A final safeguard. Where would that be? I don't know yet, but this confirms what I suspected. Bradford doesn't just want the minerals under Eagle Point. He wants to eliminate any remaining evidence of the Prometheus program and anyone who knows about it. We need to get this back to Eagle Point immediately. If Bradford's people are watching this place, too late. The cabin's surrounded. Daniel moves to the window, staying out of sight. 4 armed men in tactical gear are approaching through the trees. Bradford's security contractors. They must have followed us. We need to get out of here. Is there another exit? The cellar, it connects to a trail that leads around the lake. My father showed me once in case of forest fires. Grab everything, leave no trace we found anything. As they gather the evidence, a vehicle can be heard approaching on the access road. More of them. Move now. Dense forest. Fading daylight filters through the trees. Sarah and Daniel move quickly along a narrow trail, staying low. They'll have the road blocked. We need to reach the ranger station on the north side of the lake. How far? 3 miles through rough terrain. Can you make it? I grew up hiking these woods. Follow me. They navigate the difficult path as night falls. The sounds of pursuit echo behind them. They've picked up our trail. We need to split up. No, we stay together. Sarah, the evidence is what matters. I can lead them away while you get to the ranger station. I'm not leaving you to face them alone. A burst of gunfire splits the air. Bullets impact trees nearby. Those aren't warning shots. Bradford's people are shooting to kill. That settles it. We're staying together. There's an old boathouse about half a mile ahead. We might find something useful there. They increase their pace, moving deeper into the darkness. A dilapidated wooden structure at the edge of the lake. Sarah and Daniel slip inside, breathing heavily from their escape. There's an old rowboat, hasn't been used in years. Will it float? Only one way to find out. They drag the boat to the water's edge. It's weathered but intact. The ranger station is directly across the lake. 2 miles by water versus 3 miles through forest they're combing. Get in, I'll push us off. As they row across the dark lake, lights appear on the shore behind them. Flashlight beams search the water. Stay low. The darkness will cover us. They're too far away to see us clearly, but keep your voice down. Sound carries over water. The rhythmic splash of their oars is the only sound as they cross the lake. Rangers don't staff it overnight this time of year. Should be a radio inside we can use. They enter the station, finding it dark and quiet. Daniel locates a radio system and begins setting up communications. Eagle Point, this is Prescott. Authentication code Sierra Mercury 59. We need immediate extraction from Berkshire Ranger Station. Hostiles in pursuit. The radio crackles with a response. Authentication confirmed. Extraction team deploying. ETA 40 minutes. Secure location and standby. Too long. Bradford's people will find us before then. Not if we keep moving. There should be emergency supplies here. Weapons, standard park ranger equipment. Nothing that would help against tactical teams. Sarah searches through storage cabinets. Flares, map, first aid kit. Wait, there's a maintenance shed behind the station. Might have tools we can use. Worth checking. I'll secure this building while you look. The maintenance shed contains groundskeeping equipment. Sarah finds a chainsaw, fuel cans, and various tools. We can use these to set up defensive positions, create barriers, diversions. Good thinking. Bradford's team will expect us to hide, not prepare an active defense. They work quickly to prepare the area, establishing multiple defensive positions. Whatever happens, we need to protect the evidence. It's our only leverage against Bradford. Agreed. If we're separated, head for the extraction point alone. Don't wait for me. I'm not leaving you behind. Sarah, this isn't about us. It's about exposing Bradford and protecting Eagle Point. Promise me you'll prioritize the mission. Sarah reluctantly nods. The same goes for you. The evidence reaches Eagle Point, no matter what. Deal. Distant lights appear on the lake. Multiple boats approaching. They found our trail faster than I expected. Get ready. Grace Chen coordinates the response team. Robert Coleman prepares tactical gear. Extraction team is en route. ETA 35 minutes to the ranger station. Weather conditions? Clear skies, good visibility. That works both for and against us. Bradford's people? Satellite shows multiple heat signatures converging on the ranger station. At least 8 hostiles. They're not even trying to hide their operation. Bradford's getting desperate or confident. We need to alert the authorities and tell them what? That a private security team is conducting operations on federal land? Bradford has too many connections. By the time we cut through the red tape, it would be too late. So we handle this ourselves. We protect our people. That's what the colonel built Eagle Point to do. Herbert Reynolds enters the command center, looking concerned. Bradford Industries just filed an emergency injunction claiming Eagle Point is violating environmental regulations. County officials will arrive tomorrow with inspection warrants. He's attacking on multiple fronts. Legal pressure combined with direct action. Classic military strategy. Division of forces, coordinated assault. We need to ensure Sarah and Daniel return safely with whatever they found. Then we deal with Bradford's legal maneuvers. I've contacted some of the colonel's old colleagues in Washington, people who remember Project Mercury. They're making inquiries about Bradford's activities. Will they help in time? They understand the stakes. No one wants Prometheus technology in the wrong hands, especially if Bradford has continued development all these years. A communications officer interrupts. We've lost contact with the extraction team. Signal jamming in the area. Bradford's blocking communications. Prepare a secondary team immediately. Herbert, stay here and coordinate our legal response. We need to be ready for tomorrow's inspection. Chaos at the ranger station. Sarah and Daniel defend against Bradford's tactical team. Sarah makes a break for the tree line, carrying the waterproof case. Daniel provides covering fire. As she reaches the forest edge, Sarah turns back to see Daniel surrounded by Bradford's men. Daniel, go! Complete the mission. Sarah hesitates, then disappears into the forest as Daniel is subdued by multiple attackers. A small clearing in the dense forest. Sarah waits anxiously, clutching the evidence. She hears vehicles approaching and readies herself for another confrontation. Instead, an Eagle Point extraction team arrives. Robert Coleman leads them. Sarah, where's Daniel? Bradford's team took him. There were too many. Helicopter. At least 8 men. They have him, Robert. We'll get him back. Right now, we need to get you and that evidence to safety. Bradford was ready for us. How did he know we'd be at the cabin? Questions for later. Eagle Point is under threat. Bradford's moved faster than we anticipated. What kind of threat? Environmental inspection tomorrow morning. Bradford's legal team obtained emergency access based on fabricated concerns about the dam's integrity. He's creating a distraction while his people go after the real target. Exactly. We need to move. Our window is closing. Sarah looks back toward the ranger station, torn by her decision to leave Daniel. He told me to complete the mission, to put the evidence first. And he was right. Daniel knew the risks. Our priority is getting you and that evidence safely back to Eagle Point. Sarah nods, her expression hardening with resolve. Then let's go. Bradford's going to pay for this. A sleek, modern office. James Bradford sits at his desk, speaking on a secure line. Richard Morgan waits nervously nearby. You have Prescott? Good. And the evidence? Bradford listens to the response, his expression darkening. Sarah escaped with it? Unacceptable. Find her. Use whatever resources necessary. He ends the call and turns to Richard. Your ex-wife is becoming a serious problem. You said no one would get hurt. Your men were firing live ammunition, James. Necessary precautions. My team was authorized to use appropriate force to recover stolen proprietary information. Stolen? That's not what this is about, and you know it. Sarah mentioned her father's death, said it wasn't an accident. Bradford's expression becomes dangerous. John Morgan's death was ruled an accident by the proper authorities. Tragic, but not suspicious. Then why send armed men after Sarah? Why risk everything over some old documents? Richard, your concern for Sarah is admirable, but misplaced. She's involved herself in matters she doesn't understand. Industrial espionage, theft of classified information, trespassing on corporate property. None of that justifies what happened tonight. Bradford leans forward, his voice hardening. Let me be absolutely clear. Your position at Bradford Industries depends on your loyalty, your comfortable lifestyle, your children's private education, your waterfront home. All of it comes from this company. Are you threatening me? I'm reminding you where your interests lie. The custody hearing is in 3 days. I expect you to maintain our agreed position regarding Sarah's fitness as a parent. Sarah is their mother. Whatever is happening between you and her, the children shouldn't suffer. Bradford stands, his patience clearly wearing thin. The children will be fine, better than fine. They'll have every advantage money can provide. That is, if their father continues to make wise decisions. Richard stares at Bradford, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time. And if I don't, Bradford smiles coldly, then you'll find yourself in the same unfortunate position as your former father-in-law. Unemployed, discredited, and unable to provide for your children. Is that what you want, Richard? Richard doesn't answer. I thought not. Now we have preparations to make for tomorrow's inspection of Eagle Point. I want you there as my representative. Why me, Because Sarah will hesitate to act against you with the children's custody at stake. You're my insurance policy, Richard. Don't make me regret trusting you. The community prepares for the inspection. Sarah briefs the residents in the community center. Bradford's using this inspection as cover. His real goal is to locate the mercury vault and any evidence connecting him to my father's death. The county officials are due at 9. We've prepared all documentation regarding the dam's structural integrity and water quality. Sarah turns to Herbert Reynolds. What's our legal position? They have a valid warrant for environmental inspection. We can't deny them access without violating court orders. So we comply, but control the narrative. Keep them focused on the environmental aspects, away from secure areas. Exactly. Bradford himself will be present, along with Richard. Richard? Why would Bradford bring him? Leverage. Bradford knows you won't risk confrontation with your children's father present. He's right. This complicates things. Sarah addresses the entire group. Everyone knows their responsibilities. Regular residents maintain normal activities. Security team stays alert but invisible. Technical team monitors all communications and surveillance. What about Daniel? We have people working on locating him. Bradford will keep him alive. He's valuable as a bargaining chip. And the evidence we recovered? Secure in the vault. I've begun reviewing it. There's more than we realized. Detailed records of the Prometheus program, financial transactions, even technical specifications. Grace Chen joins the briefing. Sarah, there's something else you should know. The microfiche contains personnel records from Project Mercury. Your father wasn't just investigating Bradford. He was part of the original project. Sarah looks stunned. What? That's impossible. My father was a journalist, not a military scientist. According to these records, John Morgan worked as a civilian consultant on Mercury communications systems. That's how he met your grandfather. Why wouldn't my grandfather tell me this? To protect you. If you knew your father's connection to the project, you might have started asking questions. Questions that would have led to Bradford. This changes everything. My father wasn't just investigating corruption. He was exposing a betrayal from within the project itself. Robert interrupts with urgent news. County vehicles approaching the main gate. Bradford's arrived early. Of course he has. He wants to catch us off guard. Let's not give him the satisfaction. Sarah waits as the convoy of vehicles approaches. County officials, Bradford Industries representatives, and Richard exit their vehicles. Bradford approaches with a false smile. Sarah, I hope we're not too early. We're eager to address these environmental concerns. I'm sure you are, James, though we both know this inspection is based on fabricated reports. Bradford gestures to the county officials. These gentlemen will determine what's fabricated. Their expertise is beyond question. Sarah turns to the officials. Eagle Point welcomes your inspection. We have nothing to hide regarding our environmental practices. In fact, we've prepared comprehensive documentation of our water quality testing, structural assessments of the dam, and sustainability initiatives. Bradford's smile tightens almost imperceptibly. Very thorough, but I'm sure these gentlemen will want to conduct their own independent tests. Of course, we'll provide full access to all environmental systems. Richard stands awkwardly to the side, avoiding Sarah's gaze. She approaches him. Richard, I didn't expect to see you here. Bradford thought my familiarity with engineering concepts would be helpful. And my custody hearing is in 3 days. Convenient timing. Sarah, this isn't what you think, isn't it? Bradford's using you, Richard, just like he's using these officials to gain access to Eagle Point. Richard lowers his voice. There are armed men in those vehicles, Sarah, not just inspectors. Bradford's planning something. Sarah's expression doesn't change, but her eyes show her awareness of the danger. Thank you for the warning. Are the children safe? They're with my mother, away from all this. Good. Whatever happens today, remember they need both their parents. Richard nods almost imperceptibly as Bradford approaches. Shall we begin the inspection? I'm particularly interested in the dam facility. I bet you are. This way, gentlemen. The inspection team examines the dam, while Sarah and Grace provide explanations of the systems. As you can see, our monitoring systems exceed federal requirements. Water quality testing occurs hourly, with results logged and verified by independent laboratories. Bradford appears impatient with the technical details. Yes, very impressive. but I'd like to examine the internal structure. The foundation has been flagged as potentially compromised. The foundation is solid granite, Mr. Bradford, but feel free to review our geological surveys and stress tests. Bradford signals to one of his men, who moves toward a restricted access door. Sarah steps forward. That area is restricted to authorized personnel only. It contains critical infrastructure controls. One of the county officials intervenes. Our warrant covers all aspects of the dam structure, Ms. Morgan. That would include control systems. Of course. Grace, please escort them. Standard security protocols apply. Grace leads the official and Bradford's man through the door. Bradford watches with calculating eyes. You're very protective of your grandfather's legacy, Sarah. Admirable, but potentially misguided. Eagle Point represents decades of sustainable innovation. I won't let it be destroyed for short-term profit. Profit is merely a byproduct of progress. The minerals beneath us could transform American technology, reduce our dependence on foreign resources, at the cost of destroying this community and poisoning the watershed for generations. Bradford moves closer, speaking quietly. Where's Daniel Prescott? In your custody, last I checked. Bradford's expression shows genuine surprise. My men reported he escaped during transport. I assumed he'd returned here. Sarah maintains her composure despite this unexpected news. If Daniel escaped your mercenaries, he's smart enough to stay clear of Eagle Point while you're here. Bradford studies her reaction. Perhaps, or perhaps he's discovered something that changes the equation for everyone. What are you talking about? Bradford smiles enigmatically as his associate returns from the restricted area. We've completed our preliminary assessment. We'll need to conduct more thorough testing of the concrete integrity. Sarah recognizes this as an excuse to return with more equipment, and possibly to plant devices or explosives. Any additional testing will require a separate warrant with specific parameters. Our legal team will need to review the request. Bradford's facade of cooperation slips slightly. More delays? I thought you had nothing to hide. We don't, but we won't allow fishing expeditions under the guise of environmental concerns. One of Bradford's security men approaches, whispering something urgent. Bradford's expression darkens momentarily before he regains his composure. We've seen enough for today. My team will compile their findings and submit formal recommendations to the county board. What about Daniel? If he's compromised Bradford's research facility, he'll try to contact us. Prepare for emergency communication protocols. Already done. But Bradford will increase pressure on all fronts now. The custody hearing, the county board, possibly even direct action. Then we need to accelerate our timetable. It's time to take the offensive. Sarah and the core team review the evidence recovered from the fishing cabin. The atmosphere is tense, determined. My father's journal contains references to something called Project Prometheus, a weaponized offshoot of the Mercury project. Grace examines technical documents. According to these specifications, Prometheus was designed to create autonomous defense systems. Self-sustaining, self-replicating technology that could operate without human control. The ultimate fail-safe if command structures were destroyed in a nuclear attack. Or the ultimate threat if that technology fell into the wrong hands. Sarah studies financial records. Bradford diverted government funds and technology to create privatized versions. Started selling to foreign interests in the late 1990s. That's when your father began investigating. And when he got too close to the truth, Bradford eliminated him. Herbert reviews legal documents. The evidence is compelling but circumstantial. We need something definitive to link Bradford directly to your father's death. Sarah turns to a section of her father's journal. My father mentions a source inside Bradford Industries, someone with direct knowledge of Prometheus and Bradford's illegal activities. A whistleblower. Could they still be alive? After 24 years? It's possible, but they'd be well hidden. Bradford would have hunted them relentlessly. Robert reports on security matters. We've intercepted communications from Bradford's security team. They're establishing positions around Eagle Point's perimeter. Looks like preparations for an assault. Timeline? Hard to say. Could be days, could be hours. And Daniel, still no contact. But Bradford's research facility experienced a significant data breach yesterday. Critical systems compromised. Files extracted. That has to be Daniel. He's gathering evidence against Bradford. and making himself Bradford's #1 target in the process. Sarah makes a decision. We need to find my father's source. They could provide the final piece we need to expose Bradford. How? Your father only referred to them as Helios in his notes. There's one person who might know their identity. My grandfather's former secretary, Margaret Winters. She handled his correspondence, including during the period my father was investigating Bradford. Is she still alive? Living in a retirement community about an hour from here. But reaching her would mean leaving Eagle Point while Bradford's people are watching. It's a risk we have to take. Bradford's preparing to move against us. We need that information before he does. The community gathers in the main hall. Sarah addresses everyone, her leadership now confident and clear. Bradford Industries is planning direct action against Eagle Point. Their inspection today was reconnaissance, nothing more. A resident asks about evacuation. Eagle Point was designed to withstand threats far greater than corporate mercenaries. We're not evacuating. We're defending what's ours. Another resident expresses concern. These are private security contractors with military training. We're civilians. Many of you are former military or law enforcement. Everyone here was selected partly for your ability to function in crisis situations. This is what my grandfather prepared us for. Grace outlines the defense strategy. We've activated all security protocols, perimeter alerts, communications security, defensive positions. We're not initiating conflict, but we will protect ourselves if necessary. Robert adds tactical information. Bradford's team has established surveillance around our boundaries. They're monitoring movement in and out. Any departure will be tracked. Sarah continues, which is why I'll be leaving tonight. Bradford expects us to hunker down, to play defense. Instead, we're taking the fight to him. Concerned murmurs spread through the crowd. I need to contact someone who can provide critical evidence against Bradford. Evidence that could end this conflict before it escalates further. Herbert expresses concern. It's too dangerous, Sarah. Bradford's people will be watching for exactly this kind of movement, which is why we'll create multiple diversions. Make Bradford chase shadows while I reach my destination. Robert outlines the plan. 3 teams will deploy simultaneously. Decoys heading east and west, while Sarah's team moves south through the emergency tunnel system. The community voices support for the plan. While I'm gone, Grace and Herbert will coordinate Eagle Point's defense. Trust them as you would me. A final question from a resident. And if Bradford's forces attack before you return, protect each other. Protect this community. That's what my grandfather built Eagle Point to do, to preserve what matters most when threats arise. Eagle Point was created after the Cuban Missile Crisis, when my grandfather witnessed how close we came to losing everything. He dedicated his life to ensuring that the best of who we are would survive any calamity. Today, that calamity is James Bradford and his greed. We will not let him destroy what generations have built. The community responds with unified determination as Sarah prepares to depart. Sarah, Robert, and 2 security team members move through a narrow tunnel beneath Eagle Point. The passage is reinforced, clearly designed for emergency evacuation. My grandfather really did think of everything. The colonel planned for numerous contingencies. These tunnels extend beyond the property line, emerging in 3 different locations. How many people know about them? Only the security team and community leadership. Bradford won't have this intelligence unless he has a source inside Eagle Point. Do you think that's possible? A mole? The colonel vetted everyone personally, but Bradford's resources are substantial. He could have turned someone after your grandfather's death. Sarah considers this disturbing possibility. We need to operate under the assumption that Bradford has some knowledge of our capabilities. Expect surveillance at all tunnel exits, already factored into the plan. The decoy teams will create sufficient distraction for us to slip through. They reach a junction in the tunnel system. From here we separate. Team 1 heads for the eastern exit, creating the primary diversion. We continue to the southern exit, closest to the road. The other team acknowledges and takes the eastern passage. Sarah, Robert, and 1 security member continue south. How will we know if the diversion works? We'll monitor Bradford's communications. When his teams respond to the eastern movement, we make our move. And if they don't take the bait, then we fight our way through. Either way, you're reaching Margaret Winters tonight. The southern tunnel exit is concealed within what appears to be an abandoned utility shed. Sarah, Robert, and their teammate prepare to emerge. Bradford's communications indicate all teams responding to the eastern diversion. Our window is open. They exit the tunnel cautiously, checking for surveillance. Clear. Vehicle is in position 200 yards south. Move quickly, stay low. They navigate through dense underbrush toward a concealed vehicle. Suddenly, floodlights illuminate the area. Armed men emerge from hidden positions. Ambush! Get down! Robert pushes Sarah toward cover as gunfire erupts. Their teammate returns fire, creating a momentary opening. Bradford's voice comes through a loudspeaker. Sarah Morgan, there's no need for violence. We simply want to talk. The security team member is hit, falling wounded but still conscious. Robert assesses the situation grimly. They were waiting for us. Someone leaked the plan. Sarah makes a quick decision. Get him back to the tunnel. I'll create a diversion. No, my orders are to protect you, and mine are to complete this mission. Bradford wants me, not you. I'll draw them off while you get back to Eagle Point. Sarah, that's an order, Robert. Eagle Point needs you. The wounded man needs you. I'll find another way to reach Margaret. Before Robert can protest further, Sarah breaks cover, running in the opposite direction from the tunnel entrance. Bradford's men immediately pursue her. Robert hesitates, then helps the wounded man back toward the tunnel as Sarah disappears into the forest with Bradford's security team in pursuit. Sarah navigates the dark forest, using her knowledge of the terrain to stay ahead of her pursuers. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness behind her. She finds a stream and moves through the water to mask her trail. After several hundred yards, she exits and doubles back, circling behind Bradford's men. In the distance, she can see vehicles parked on a service road. She approaches cautiously, staying hidden in the underbrush. Bradford stands beside a black SUV, coordinating the search via radio. I want her found, not harmed, just contained. She's heading southwest, likely toward the highway. A security team leader responds. Understood. Teams converging on that sector now. Bradford turns to another figure. Richard. She's resourceful, more so than I anticipated. Richard looks deeply uncomfortable. This has gone too far, James. Armed men hunting the mother of my children? What happens when they find her? She'll be detained briefly while we secure Eagle Point. Once we control the property and all evidence, she'll be released unharmed. And Daniel Prescott? Is he detained too? Prescott is a different matter, a former military officer who stole classified information. His situation is complicated. You mean he's dead? Bradford's expression hardens. I mean his situation is being handled appropriately by people who understand national security concerns. This isn't about national security. It's about covering up what you did to John Morgan. Richard, your concern for Sarah's family history is touching but misplaced. Focus on what matters, your children's future. Sarah, hidden nearby, records this conversation on her phone. As Bradford and Richard continue talking, she slips toward one of the unattended vehicles. With Bradford and his men focused on the forest search, Sarah manages to reach a vehicle. Using skills Daniel taught her, she hotwires the SUV and accelerates away before Bradford's team can respond. Bradford watches in fury as his own vehicle disappears down the road. Find her. Now, a peaceful residential facility for seniors. Despite the late hour, Sarah has managed to gain entry. She stands in the doorway of an apartment, facing an elderly woman with sharp, intelligent eyes. Margaret Winters? My name is Sarah Morgan. William Morgan was my grandfather. I know who you are, child. I've been expecting you for years. Inside the apartment, Margaret serves tea with steady hands despite her age. Your grandfather told me you might come someday. After he was gone. You knew my grandfather well? I was his right hand for 30 years. I knew everything about his work, his family, his secrets, including Project Mercury and Prometheus. Margaret's expression grows serious. So it's finally happening. Bradford's making his move. Yes, he's attacked Eagle Point, taken Daniel Prescott. He's after something specific. Evidence my father gathered before he died. John was a good man. Good, principled, like his father. Too principled for the world he was investigating. You knew about my father's investigation? I helped him, arranged meetings, secured communications. maintained the paper trail, including with his source inside Bradford Industries, someone codenamed Helios. Margaret studies Sarah carefully, making a decision. Helios wasn't just any source. He was Bradford's chief scientist on the Prometheus project, a brilliant man who realized too late what his work was being used for. Do you know his real identity? Is he still alive? His name is Dr. Alan Forrest, and yes, as far as I know, he's still alive. Bradford keeps him isolated at a private research facility in the Adirondacks, officially developing clean energy technology, actually continuing the work on Prometheus. A prisoner? A valuable asset too dangerous to eliminate, but too important to release. Bradford needs Forrest's expertise to maintain the Prometheus system. My father met with Forrest the night before he died. What did Forrest give him? Evidence. Technical specifications proving Bradford had weaponized mercury technology and sold it to foreign interests. Financial records showing the transactions. And something else. Something Forrest called the fail-safe. What kind of fail-safe? Forrest built a back door into the Prometheus system, a way to shut it down remotely if it ever became a threat. Your father hid this fail-safe somewhere only family could find it, the fishing cabin. We found some of the evidence there, but nothing about a fail-safe. Because your father was smarter than that. He would have hidden the most critical components separately. Sarah thinks back to her father's journal. His last entry mentions something only Morgan Blood would find. Any idea what that means? Margaret smiles sadly. Your father used to take you fishing at that cabin. Every summer. He taught you special spots, secret places. Sarah's eyes widen with a sudden understanding. The memorial tree. We planted a pine tree on the property after my grandmother died. Dad said it was our special place where we could always find peace. Margaret nods. That sounds like John. Sentimental but practical. I need to get back to that cabin. The evidence we need could be hidden there. It's too dangerous. Bradford's men will be watching the property now. I don't have a choice. Without that evidence, Bradford will destroy Eagle Point and everyone in it. Margaret reaches for a small wooden box on her bookshelf. Before you go, take this. Your grandfather left it with me for safekeeping. She hands Sarah a military challenge coin with the Mercury Project emblem. It's keyed to the original Mercury facilities, including Bradford's research center where they're holding Forrest. Margaret, how deeply were you involved in Project Mercury? I was the program administrator, dear. Those facilities were built under my supervision. You're not just my grandfather's secretary, former intelligence analyst. Your grandfather recruited me after the Cuban Missile Crisis. We worked together for decades. Sarah stares at the elderly woman with new respect. Why are you telling me this now? Because Bradford has finally crossed the line, using armed contractors on American soil against civilians. That violates everything Project Mercury stood for. It's time to finish what your father started. How do I find Forrest? The research facility is disguised as a Bradford Industries renewable energy center near Lake Placid. Heavily secured, minimal staff, Forrest is kept in the subterranean levels. Getting in would be impossible. Not with that coin and the right codes. I can give you access credentials that should still work. Bradford's arrogant. He never believed anyone from the original Mercury team would move against him. This is incredibly dangerous. So is letting Bradford control Prometheus technology. Your father understood the risks. So did your grandfather. Now it's your turn to decide what you're willing to risk for the truth. Sarah pockets the challenge coin, her decision made. Tell me everything you know about the facility and how to reach Dr. Forrest. Bradford's security forces have established positions around Eagle Point's perimeter. Inside, the community prepares defensive measures under Grace's direction. No communication from Sarah since last night. Bradford's jamming our signals. Robert reports on their security status. Perimeter defenses are active. All residents in secure positions. We can hold them off, but not indefinitely. Herbert brings troubling news. Bradford's legal team has obtained an emergency court order authorizing county officials to take control of Eagle Point. They're claiming environmental hazards pose an imminent threat to the watershed. How did they get a judge to sign that without evidence? Money, influence. The same weapons Bradford always uses. When will they move? County officials with Bradford's security team will arrive at noon. Once they're inside, we lose control. We need to stall them. Buy Sarah more time to find the evidence. Without proof of Bradford's illegal activities, we have no legal recourse. Then we use Bradford's own tactics against him. Grace, access the Mercury Project archives. Find everything you can on Bradford's early involvement. What are you thinking? Bradford betrayed the Mercury Project, diverted classified technology for private gain. That's not just corporate corruption, it's treason. Even if true, how does that help us now? Because Bradford has political aspirations. Rumors he's considering a Senate run next year. He can't afford even the suggestion of treason in his past. You want to threaten him with exposure? I want to create enough doubt that he hesitates. All we need is time for Sarah to locate the failsafe in Dr. Forrest. It's a dangerous game. If Bradford feels cornered, he might abandon legal pretense entirely. He already has. Armed contractors pursuing Sarah through the forest. Bradford's crossed the line into illegal operations. Now we use that against him. What about Daniel? If he escaped Bradford's custody, he's either in hiding or attempting to reach Forrest himself. Based on what? Daniel knew about Prometheus. He understood what Bradford was really after. The logical move would be to secure either the evidence or the witness. Grace makes a discovery in the archives. I've found something. Project Mercury financial records showing significant discrepancies during Bradford's tenure as security director. Millions in equipment and resources diverted to unspecified contingency projects. The foundation of Prometheus. Can we leak this to the media? Too easily denied without context. But we can send it directly to Bradford with a message. More to follow unless he withdraws. A bluff? A warning shot. Show him we have more than he realizes. As they prepare this countermeasure, emergency alarms sound throughout Eagle Point. Perimeter breach. Multiple points of intrusion. Bradford's moving earlier than expected. Everyone to defensive positions. An isolated compound in the Adirondacks. Solar panels and wind turbines suggest renewable energy research, but the security measures tell a different story. Inside a monitoring room, security personnel detect an approaching vehicle. Single vehicle approaching main gate. Driver identified as Richard Morgan, Bradford Industries executive. Verify identification and clearance. Identification confirmed. Mr. Morgan has alpha level clearance. Shall I grant access? A security director makes the decision. Mr. Bradford is expected shortly. Mr. Morgan may enter. The gates open, allowing Richard's car to enter the compound. He parks and approaches the main entrance, appearing nervous but determined. Inside, Richard is greeted by security personnel. Mr. Morgan, we weren't expecting you today. Mr. Bradford sent me to review the Prometheus protocols in preparation for the Eagle Point acquisition. The security officer checks his tablet. I don't see that authorization in the system. Richard produces an ID card with Bradford's signature. Direct authorization. Mr. Bradford is concerned about potential security breaches following Prescott's escape. Understanding dawns on the officer's face. Of course, please follow me to the secure elevator. Level B requires additional verification. Richard follows, maintaining his composure despite his obvious tension. They enter an elevator that descends deep below the surface. The doors open to reveal a high-tech research facility. Unlike the renewable energy facade above, this is clearly advanced weapons development. Dr. Forrest is in the main laboratory. He's been uncooperative since the Eagle Point situation developed. I'll handle it. Mr. Bradford wants a full assessment of vulnerabilities. The security officer leaves Richard at the laboratory entrance. Inside, an elderly scientist works at an advanced computer system. Dr. Alan Forrest, once brilliant and robust, now appears worn but still sharp-minded. Richard enters cautiously. Dr. Forrest? The scientist looks up, suspicious. Another of Bradford's messengers? I've already told your colleagues I can't accelerate the timeline. Prometheus isn't ready for deployment. I'm not here for Bradford. My name is Richard Morgan. I was married to Sarah Morgan, John Morgan's daughter. Forrest freezes, studying Richard intently. Morgan, prove it. Richard produces a family photograph showing himself with Sarah and their children. Sarah is trying to expose Bradford. She's in danger. I need to help her. Forrest remains suspicious. Why should I trust you? You work for Bradford, not by choice anymore. Bradford's using armed contractors to hunt Sarah. He's taken over Eagle Point. Whatever he's planning with Prometheus, it's happening now. Forrest moves to a secure terminal, typing rapidly. Bradford's accelerated the timetable. The system isn't stable yet. If he deploys prematurely, what exactly is Prometheus to Forrest? Forrest looks haunted by his own creation. It began as defense technology, autonomous systems that could maintain critical infrastructure if command structures were destroyed. But Bradford weaponized it, created a self-learning security network that could operate independently. Like an AI, more sophisticated. It integrates with existing systems, power grids, communications, even defense networks. Bradford sells limited versions to private military contractors and foreign governments, but he's kept the master system for himself. What's he planning to do with it? Control, leverage, power. Bradford believes whoever controls Prometheus controls the future of national security. And the fail-safe, John Morgan hid something that could stop Prometheus? Yes, a backdoor protocol I designed, a kill switch that would shut down all Prometheus systems simultaneously. Where is it? I gave the core algorithm to John. He encoded it and hid it somewhere only family could access. But it's useless without the activation codes stored here in this facility. Can you access those codes? I designed the system. Of course I can access them, but we'd need to transmit them to whoever has the core algorithm. Sarah may have found it, but Eagle Point is under siege. Communications are jammed. There's another way, the original Mercury emergency broadcast system, hardened against interference. If we can access it from here, a security alarm interrupts them. Unauthorized access detected. Security breach in progress. Richard looks panicked. Bradford must have realized I'm not here on his behalf. Forrest moves quickly to a hidden panel in the wall. This way, emergency exit, the old Mercury escape route. As they flee, security personnel flood into the laboratory. Through a surveillance camera, we see Daniel Prescott fighting his way through another section of the facility. Prescott's creating a diversion. Smart man. Can we reach him? Not without being captured ourselves, but he's buying us time to access the broadcast system. Forrest leads Richard through narrow maintenance passages. Where are we going? The original Mercury Command Center. Bradford built his facility on top of it, never realizing I still had access. Sarah returns to the cabin, approaching cautiously through the forest. The area appears deserted following the previous night's confrontation. She makes her way to a young pine tree on the property, about 20 feet tall. A small brass plaque at its base reads, "Elizabeth Morgan, always in our hearts." Sarah kneels beside the tree, searching the ground around it. Finding nothing, she examines the plaque more closely. The edge seems unusual. Using her pocket knife, she carefully pries the plaque away from the tree. Behind it is a small waterproof container embedded in the trunk. Inside the container is a military-grade data storage device with Mercury project markings. Sarah retrieves it, relief evident in her expression. As she turns to leave, a helicopter appears overhead. Bradford's voice comes through a loudspeaker. "Sarah Morgan, we have Eagle Point surrounded. Surrender now and no one will be harmed." Sarah runs for cover as armed men rappel from the helicopter. Gunfire erupts, forcing her deeper into the forest. A bullet grazes her arm, but she continues running, clutching the precious data device. She reaches a steep ravine with a rushing stream below. With Bradford's men closing in, Sarah makes a desperate decision and jumps into the water below. Forrest and Richard reach an abandoned control room deep beneath Bradford's facility. Despite decades of disuse, the equipment appears maintained. Bradford never knew this was here. He knew about the facility but thought it was decommissioned. I've kept it operational, waiting for the right moment. Forrest activates ancient-looking but functional systems. The Mercury Emergency Broadcast System operates on frequencies reserved for national emergencies, hardened against jamming, EMP, even nuclear detonation. Can it reach Eagle Point? It can reach anywhere in North America. The challenge is authentication. Without proper codes, Eagle Point won't trust the transmission. Richard remembers something. Sarah's grandfather gave her a commemorative dollar coin. Could that be related? Forrest looks up sharply. The Mercury authentication token. Of course. William would have ensured Sarah had the physical key. Forrest accesses the communication system. If Sarah has both the core algorithm and the authentication token, she can activate the failsafe. but she needs the activation codes from this facility. Can you transmit them? I need to generate new codes. Bradford may have compromised the originals. As Forrest works, alarms sound throughout the facility. They've discovered the old mercury level. We don't have much time. Forrest types frantically. Almost there, the new codes are generating. We need 2 minutes for complete transmission. The sound of security teams approaches. They'll be here sooner than that. Richard makes a decision. Keep working. I'll buy you time. Richard takes a security officer's sidearm and positions himself at the entrance to defend against Bradford's approaching forces. Bradford's security teams breach Eagle Point's defenses. Community members retreat to defensive positions as the battle intensifies. In the command center, Grace coordinates the defense while monitoring communications. Robert reports from the front lines. They've breached the main gate. At least 30 armed contractors with tactical gear. Where's Bradford? Not visible. Likely coordinating remotely until the area is secured. Suddenly, an ancient communication system activates, surprising everyone. What is that? Grace examines the equipment in amazement. The original Mercury emergency channel. It hasn't been used in decades. A transmission comes through, broken but intelligible. Eagle Point, Mercury Protocol Alpha, emergency authentication. Grace responds quickly. This is Eagle Point. Authentication required. Richard's voice responds. Authentication Sierra Tango 749. This is Richard Morgan with Dr. Alan Forrest. We have the Prometheus activation codes. Sarah needs them to initiate the failsafe. Grace looks stunned. Richard? How did you access this channel? No time to explain. Bradford's men are breaking through. Dr. Forrest is transmitting the codes now. You need to get them to Sarah. How? We don't know where she is. The ancient system continues transmitting as sounds of conflict come through the channel. Codes transmitting. Need Morgan authentication token. Dollar coin is the key. The transmission becomes garbled as gunfire erupts in the background. Richard! Dr. Forrest! The emergency channel goes silent. Herbert looks grim. Bradford's forces must have found them. Grace makes a quick decision. We received partial transmission of the activation codes. Not complete, but better than nothing. Robert reports more bad news. Bradford's team has reached the community center. We can't hold them much longer. We need to secure these codes and hope Sarah contacts us. Without the complete sequence and Sarah's authentication token, we can't activate the failsafe. A loud explosion rocks the command center as Bradford's forces breach the final defenses. Sarah emerges from the water, downstream, injured but still clutching the data device. She hears Bradford's helicopter searching overhead. Using forest cover, she makes her way toward the nearest road. As she reaches the edge of the trees, a vehicle approaches. Sarah prepares to hide when she recognizes the driver, Daniel Prescott, looking battered but alive. She rushes to the vehicle as Daniel stops. Sarah, thank God, Bradford's forces are everywhere. Daniel, how did you escape? No time to explain. Bradford's deployed Prometheus. We need to get to Eagle Point immediately. I found my father's data device. It must contain the failsafe. And I have partial activation codes from Forrest's facility. Richard helped me escape. Richard? He switched sides. He's helping Forrest transmit the complete codes to Eagle Point. Sarah looks stunned by this revelation. We need to hurry. With both components, we can shut down Prometheus before Bradford fully deploys it. As they speed toward Eagle Point, Daniel explains what he learned. Prometheus isn't just security technology. It's an autonomous system designed to integrate with critical infrastructure. Banking, power grids, defense networks. Bradford's selling it as the ultimate security solution, while maintaining master control himself. Whoever controls Prometheus essentially controls the digital backbone of modern civilization. The perfect leverage for a man with political ambitions. Exactly. Bradford's planning to use Eagle Point as the demonstration. Take control of a secure, self-contained community to prove Prometheus works before offering it to government agencies. And we're the test subjects, unless we activate the fail-safe first. As they approach Eagle Point, they see Bradford's forces have taken control of the main facility. Smoke rises from several buildings. They've overwhelmed our defenses. We can't go in through the main entrance. Is there another way? The emergency tunnel system, but Bradford's people might know about it by now. We don't have a choice. If Bradford fully activates Prometheus using Eagle Point systems, the consequences would extend far beyond our community. Daniel navigates toward a concealed entrance to the tunnel system, determination evident in both their expressions as they prepare for the final confrontation with Bradford. Sarah and Daniel make their way through the tunnel system, avoiding Bradford's patrols. They reach a maintenance junction that should lead to the command center. This section connects to the original Mercury facility beneath Eagle Point. Your grandfather incorporated it into the foundation. Another secret he kept. How many more are there? The Mercury project wasn't just about survival communities, Sarah. It was about maintaining constitutional governance if the worst happened. Daniel accesses a hidden panel revealing an ancient security system. Your grandfather was part of something called the Continuity of Government Program. Eagle Point was designed as one of several facilities that could maintain federal authority during a national catastrophe, like nuclear war. Exactly. The Mercury facilities formed a network across the country, self-sustaining communities with secure communications, resources, even judicial authority. Sarah processes this revelation. So Eagle Point isn't just a sustainable community or a doomsday bunker. It's a government continuity site. Was. The official program was decommissioned in the 1980s. Your grandfather maintained it privately, believing in the mission even after funding was cut. And Bradford wants to control it because the original Mercury broadcast system, it's hardened against interference, connects to all emergency channels nationwide. With Prometheus integrated into that system, Bradford could control critical infrastructure across the country. Sarah suddenly understands the full magnitude of Bradford's plan. This isn't about minerals or land, or even covering up my father's murder. Bradford wants to use Mercury's infrastructure to deploy Prometheus nationally. The perfect Trojan horse. Mercury already has trusted access to emergency systems. Bradford adds Prometheus, and suddenly he controls everything from power grids to defense networks. They reach another security door requiring the dollar coin. Daniel, if what you're saying is true, then Bradford isn't just a corrupt businessman. He's attempting a silent coup. Exactly. Control critical systems, influence elections, manipulate markets, all without firing a shot or changing a single law. My grandfather knew. That's why he protected Eagle Point so carefully, why he chose me as trustee. William Morgan understood Bradford better than anyone. They served together during the Cuban Missile Crisis, saw how close we came to losing everything. Sarah inserts her coin into the security panel. October 27, 1962, the day that changed my grandfather, the day that changed America. We came within minutes of nuclear war. Many of the men who experienced those hours dedicated their lives to ensuring it never happened again. The door opens, revealing an original Mercury command center preserved from the 1960s. Ancient equipment stands alongside modern upgrades, a bridge between two eras. Your grandfather and Bradford took different lessons from that day. William Morgan dedicated himself to preservation, to protecting what makes America worth saving. Bradford saw only vulnerability, decided that control was the only security. Sarah approaches the central console, and my father discovered Bradford's plan. He found evidence that Bradford was weaponizing Mercury technology, selling it to foreign interests while developing Prometheus as his master system. Sarah connects her father's data device to the console. This contains the failsafe, my father's final act to stop Bradford. The system requires both components, the failsafe algorithm and the activation codes I retrieved from Forrest's facility. As they work to integrate the components, an alarm sounds. Bradford's located us. We don't have much time. The system indicates partial synchronization. The codes are incomplete. Richard and Forrest couldn't transmit the full sequence before Bradford's men found them. Sarah studies the interface. There's another way. The original Mercury authentication protocol. It required dual authorization. Technological and human. The system needs a command decision. Someone with the authority to activate the failsafe. As trustee of Eagle Point, that's me. Sarah uses her authentication token and biometric verification to authorize the command sequence. Failsafe authorization accepted. Awaiting final confirmation. The door to the command center bursts open. Bradford enters with armed security personnel. Step away from the console, Sarah. Bradford, you're too late. Bradford approaches, surprisingly calm. Am I? Look around you, Sarah. This facility, this technology, it was designed to save America. That's exactly what Prometheus will do. By putting control in your hands, that's not security, it's tyranny. Bradford gestures to the ancient equipment. Your grandfather understood the fragility of our systems, how vulnerable we are to chaos, to attack, to failure of leadership. Prometheus creates order, stability, protection, through control and manipulation. That's not what Mercury was built for. Bradford's expression hardens. Mercury was built because we nearly destroyed ourselves, because human error almost ended civilization. Prometheus removes that error, creates a system immune to human weakness. At the cost of human freedom, my grandfather didn't fight for a controlled society. He fought for one worth preserving. Bradford signals his men to aim their weapons. Inspiring words, but ultimately meaningless. Prometheus has already integrated with Eagle Point systems. In minutes, it will connect to the Mercury Emergency Network. The demonstration will be complete. Sarah positions herself between Bradford and the console. You'll have to kill me to stop me from activating the failsafe. Bradford's expression shows genuine regret. I respected your grandfather, Sarah. I truly did. We simply had different visions of security. My grandfather understood that safety without freedom is just another form of prison. Bradford raises his hand, preparing to order his men to fire. A shot rings out, but not from Bradford's men. Richard appears at another entrance, weapon raised. Stand down, James. It's over. Bradford turns in surprise. Richard, you disappoint me. I offered you everything. You offered control, not security. I finally understand the difference. Bradford's men hesitate, uncertain who to target. The window is closing, Sarah. Activate the failsafe now. Sarah turns to the console, quickly entering the final authorization sequence. Failsafe activated. Prometheus shutdown initiating. Bradford lunges toward the console, but Daniel intercepts him. A struggle ensues as Bradford's security team is momentarily confused by Richard's presence. Sarah completes the sequence as alarms sound throughout the facility. Prometheus shutdown complete. All systems disconnecting. Mercury protocols resuming standard operations. Bradford breaks free from Daniel, his composed facade shattered. Do you have any idea what you've done? Years of work, the future of national security? I've stopped you from controlling the very systems designed to protect our freedom, just as my father tried to do 24 years ago. Bradford's expression confirms her accusation. John Morgan was naive, just like your grandfather, just like you. The console displays a new message. Mercury emergency protocols activated. Law enforcement authorities notified. The original Mercury protocols included direct lines to federal authorities. They're receiving everything. The evidence against you, Prometheus specifications, even this conversation. Bradford glances at the exits, calculating his options as his security team looks increasingly uncertain. It's over, James. Prometheus is shut down. The evidence is transmitted. There's nowhere to run. Bradford makes a desperate move, grabbing a weapon from one of his disoriented guards. Nothing's over. Prometheus can be rebuilt. The demonstration delayed, not canceled. Federal authorities will have something to say about that. Weaponizing classified technology? Selling it to foreign interests? That's treason, James. Bradford backs toward the exit, weapon raised. You think this ends with me? The need for control, for security, it's fundamental. Someone else will build Prometheus. Someone else will finish what I started. Perhaps, but it won't be you. Bradford makes a break for the exit, firing wildly. Richard and Daniel return fire as Sarah takes cover behind the console. In the chaos, Bradford escapes through an emergency exit, abandoning his security team. Richard approaches Sarah. Are you all right? Yes, thank you for helping Forrest, for switching sides. I saw what Bradford really was, what he was willing to do. I couldn't let that happen to our children's future. Daniel checks the console. The failsafe worked. Prometheus is completely offline. All integrated systems reverting to normal operations. And the evidence? Transmitted to multiple federal agencies through the Mercury emergency channels. Bradford can run, But there's nowhere to hide from this. Sarah examines the ancient equipment that her grandfather had maintained all these years. My grandfather built all this to prevent another Cuban Missile Crisis, to ensure we never came that close to destruction again. And today, it served its purpose, not by controlling the future, but by preserving the freedom to choose it. The sound of helicopters can be heard approaching Eagle Point. Federal response teams. Bradford's private army won't stand against them. Sarah picks up her grandfather's commemorative dollar coin from the console. $1. The key to everything. Not the dollar, what it represents. The principles behind it. E pluribus unum. From many, one unity through shared values, not through control. Sarah looks at Richard, reconciliation in her eyes. The custody hearing is tomorrow. Will you still fight me? No, the children need both of us. Eagle Point can be their home too, part of the time. Sarah stands at the center of Eagle Point, the commemorative dollar in her hand catching the sunlight, a small token that unlocked a legacy far more valuable than money could measure. 1 week after the confrontation at the Mercury Command Center, federal agents swarm Eagle Point, documenting evidence and interviewing residents. Sarah sits in the trustee cabin, reviewing documents with Herbert Reynolds. The Department of Justice has fast-tracked the case against Bradford. With the evidence we provided, they're preparing charges of treason, conspiracy, fraud, and attempted murder. Any sign of him? Still at large. The FBI has frozen his assets and issued international alerts, but a man with his resources won't be easy to find. And Prometheus, a joint task force from Defense and Intelligence, is dismantling all remaining systems. DeForest is cooperating fully, providing access to every component Bradford developed. What about the Mercury project itself? That's where things get complicated. The federal government acknowledges its existence now, but claims all facilities were decommissioned decades ago. Except for Eagle Point. Officially, Eagle Point remains a private community established by your grandfather. The government has no authority here. But unofficially, there's considerable interest in what your grandfather built. A self-sustaining community with advanced technology and a population trained for crisis response. That's a valuable model in an uncertain world. They want to study us. They want to partner with us. The continuity of government program never truly ended. It evolved. The door opens as Daniel enters, arm in a sling from injuries sustained during the confrontation. The FBI team is finishing up at the dam. They've recovered all the surveillance devices Bradford's people planted. And our own systems, fully operational. The community suffered minimal damage during Bradford's assault. Everyone's pitching in with repairs. What about the residents? Are they still processing everything they've learned? It's a lot to absorb. Finding out your quiet, sustainable community was actually part of a classified government program? That takes time to understand. Sarah looks thoughtful. My grandfather recruited each of them carefully. He must have seen something in each person. Some quality that made them right for Mercury. The same quality he saw in you. I'm still not sure what that was. I never really knew him. You knew him better than you realize. Every decision you have made since finding that dollar has aligned with his values, his vision. Daniel sits across from Sarah. The custody hearing is tomorrow. Are you ready? As ready as I can be. With Bradford's influence gone and Richard's cooperation, it should be straightforward. Herbert checks his notes. Judge Klein has reviewed all the updated documentation. The children's experience here during the crisis will actually work in our favor. They demonstrated remarkable resilience. They take after their mother. A knock at the door interrupts them. Grace enters with Robert Coleman. Sarah, there's something you need to see. The FBI team found a hidden compartment in the vault. Something even Daniel didn't know about. What kind of compartment? A personal safe. Your grandfather's initials are on it, but we can't open it. We thought your dollar coin might be the key. Lead the way. The group descends to the Mercury Vault beneath Eagle Point. FBI technicians have cleared the area, leaving only a few agents cataloging materials. In the corner, a previously hidden panel has been opened, revealing a small wall safe. We were scanning for any remaining surveillance devices when we found this. The wall is lead-lined. Whatever's inside, your grandfather wanted it shielded from detection. Sarah examines the lock. Another circular depression sized perfectly for her dollar coin. My grandfather certainly liked his security measures. She inserts the coin. The safe clicks open, revealing a weathered leather case and a sealed envelope with Sarah's name handwritten on it. Inside the case, Sarah finds an antique pocket watch, photographs, and military medals. The photos show her grandfather as a young officer during the Cuban Missile Crisis, standing beside other uniformed men in what appears to be a submarine control room. This is from October 1962, the height of the crisis. Sarah opens the envelope and begins reading the letter inside. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, then you've not only found Eagle Point, but also discovered its true purpose. What I've never told anyone, not your father, not even Margaret, is why I dedicated my life to this mission. On October 27, 1962, I was a communications officer aboard the USS Randolph, part of the blockade enforcing the quarantine of Cuba. We were tracking a Soviet submarine, B-59, that had gone silent. What the world didn't know then, what remained classified for decades, was how close we came to nuclear war that day. The Soviet submarine carried a nuclear torpedo. When we dropped depth charges to force it to surface, the captain believed war had already begun. He ordered the nuclear torpedo prepared for launch. A single officer, Vasily Arkhipov, refused to authorize the launch, likely saving millions of lives and preventing global catastrophe. I learned of this years later, and it haunted me. How fragile our civilization is. How close we came to destruction because of miscommunication, pride, and fear. The Mercury Project began as a government initiative to ensure continuity in case of nuclear war, but I saw it differently. Not just as a bunker for the powerful, but as a model for what humanity could be at its best: cooperative, prepared, resilient. James Bradford served with me during that period. He saw the same events but drew a different conclusion. Where I saw the need for cooperation and human judgment, he saw only vulnerability and the need for control. Our philosophical divide grew as the Mercury Project evolved. When the government cut funding in the 1980s, I continued privately while Bradford took the technology in a different, darker direction. What I couldn't tell you while I was alive was that your father's death wasn't just about exposing Bradford's corruption. John had discovered Bradford's ultimate plan: to use the Prometheus system to effectively control critical national infrastructure. In Bradford's mind, this was patriotic, removing human error from systems too important to fail. But your father recognized the danger of putting such power in one man's hands. Sarah, there is one final truth you need to know. Your mother didn't die in childbirth as you were told. She was a brilliant computer scientist working on the earliest versions of what would become the Mercury communication systems. She discovered inconsistencies in the project funding, evidence of Bradford's first attempts to divert resources. When she brought her concerns to me, I warned her about Bradford's ambition, but she insisted on documenting everything before going to the authorities. She died in a car accident 3 days later, just like your father would, 2 decades after. The official investigations found nothing suspicious, but I knew. I couldn't prove it, but I knew. I separated myself from you not out of indifference, but to protect you. I feared that my obvious interest in you would draw Bradford's attention. So I watched from afar, established the trust in a way that would only activate after my death, and waited for the day you would discover your inheritance. The pocket watch belonged to Vasily Arkhipov, the Soviet officer who prevented nuclear launch in 1962. I acquired it years later through channels I cannot disclose. It represents what I believe most deeply: that individual human conscience, even in the darkest hour, matters more than any system. It is yours now, along with Eagle Point and everything I built. Use them with the wisdom and compassion I've seen in you since you were a child. I have always been proud of you, even when I couldn't show it. With eternal love, your grandfather. William Sarah lowers the letter, visibly shaken. My mother, I never knew. He told me she died when I was born. He was trying to protect you. By lying to me my entire life, by keeping you away from Bradford's attention. Your grandfather believed Bradford was responsible for both your parents' deaths. He wouldn't risk losing you too. Sarah examines the pocket watch. Vasily Arkhipov, the man who prevented World War III with a single act of conscience. Your grandfather saw the parallel. One person standing against the system, making the right choice despite enormous pressure, just like my father did, and like my grandfather, watching from a distance, building all this. Daniel studies the photographs. These are historic documents. proof of your grandfather's direct involvement in one of the most critical moments of the Cold War. Sarah closes the case carefully. No wonder Bradford was willing to go so far. This wasn't just about covering up corruption or securing valuable minerals. This was a decades-long battle between two fundamentally different visions of security. And your grandfather won. Through you. Not yet. Bradford is still out there, and we still have a community to rebuild, children to raise, a future to secure. One battle at a time, Sarah. Tomorrow's focus is the custody hearing. After that, we deal with whatever comes next. The family courtroom is less tense than the previous hearing. Judge Klein reviews the new documentation while Sarah and Richard sit with their respective attorneys. The children wait outside with a court officer. Ms. Morgan, the court has reviewed your petition for modification of custody based on changed circumstances. The documentation is quite thorough. I see statements from FBI agents regarding the security of your residence, financial disclosures showing substantial income, and educational assessments of the Eagle Point learning environment. Sarah remains composed but hopeful. Your Honor, Eagle Point offers my children stability, safety, and educational opportunities that align with their individual interests and abilities. The community there has embraced them fully. The judge turns to Richard. Mr. Morgan, your attorney has submitted a statement indicating you no longer oppose modification of the custody arrangement. Is this accurate? It is, Your Honor. Recent events have made it clear that Sarah provides an excellent environment for our children. I believe a more equal custody arrangement would be in their best interests. Judge Klein seems surprised by this cooperation. This is refreshing. Too often these proceedings become battlegrounds rather than opportunities for collaborative parenting. The judge studies the file for a moment. Based on the evidence presented and the agreement between the parents, I am granting joint physical custody with equal time sharing. The children will reside with Ms. Morgan at Eagle Point and with Mr. Morgan at his residence on an alternating weekly schedule, with adjustments as needed for school and activities. Given the unique nature of the Eagle Point community, I'm also ordering quarterly reviews for the first year to ensure the arrangement continues to serve the children's needs. Does either party have concerns with this arrangement? Sarah speaks first. No, Your Honor. This arrangement allows Matthew and Emma to benefit from both environments while maintaining consistency in their lives. Richard agrees. We're committed to making this work, Your Honor. Very well. The custody modification is granted, effective immediately. Outside the courtroom, Matthew and Emma rush to Sarah, faces bright with excitement. Does this mean we get to live at Eagle Point? Half the time, yes. You'll spend 1 week with me, 1 week with your dad. Matthew looks to his father. And you're okay with this? More than okay. I think Eagle Point is an amazing opportunity for both of you. Your mother has built something remarkable there. Sarah's surprise at Richard's generous words is evident. Thank you, Richard. That means a lot. I was wrong about a lot of things, Sarah. Bradford, most of all. I'm sorry for the part I played in all this. You helped Forrest. You stood against Bradford when it mattered most. Emma tugs at Sarah's hand. Can we go to Eagle Point now? I want to show Dad the butterfly garden. Richard laughs. I'd like that. If your mother doesn't mind having me visit, you're welcome anytime. The children need both of us in their lives. As they walk toward the exit, Herbert approaches with an urgent expression. Sarah, federal agents just called. They've located Bradford. Where? A private airfield near the Canadian border. He was attempting to leave the country. Have they apprehended him? Not yet. They're moving in now. Thought you should know. Richard overhears this exchange. Go. I'll take the kids for ice cream and meet you at Eagle Point later. Thank you. Sarah kisses her children goodbye and follows Herbert to his waiting car. A small regional airfield. FBI vehicles surround a private hangar where a sleek jet sits on the tarmac. Sarah and Herbert arrive as agents establish a perimeter. An FBI agent in charge approaches them. Ms. Morgan, we didn't request your presence here. I have a vested interest in seeing James Bradford face justice, Agent Carson. This is an active federal operation. You should remain in your vehicle. She has security clearance through the Mercury Project legacy protocols. The agent looks surprised. Those protocols were decommissioned decades ago. Tell that to the federal task force currently examining Eagle Point systems. Sarah Morgan is the legal trustee of the last operational Mercury facility. That gives her observer status at minimum. The agent reluctantly concedes. Stay behind the line. If Bradford is inside, this could get complicated. Is he armed? Unknown. But based on his recent actions, we're proceeding under the assumption that he's dangerous and desperate. A tactical team approaches the hangar, taking positions around the entrances. An agent with a bullhorn addresses the building. James Bradford, this is the FBI. The building is surrounded. Exit with your hands visible. No response from the hangar. The tactical team prepares to breach the main doors. Before they can act, the side door opens. A figure emerges with hands raised. It's not Bradford. It's Dr. Alan Forrest. The FBI quickly secures Forrest as Sarah approaches with Agent Carson. Where's Bradford? Gone. He left 20 minutes ago in another vehicle. He forced me to prepare the jet as a diversion. Did he say where he was going? Only that he had one last piece of business to complete. Something about closing the Morgan chapter once and for all. Sarah's expression changes to alarm. Eagle Point. He's going after the children. Are you certain? Bradford just lost everything. His company, his reputation, his freedom. All he has left is revenge. And he knows the best way to hurt me. The agent immediately radios for backup. All units redirect to Eagle Point community. Suspect James Bradford believed en route to that location. Consider armed and extremely dangerous. Sarah is already heading back to Herbert's car. We need to warn them. Bradford knows all the access points, the security protocols. I'm driving. You call Eagle Point. Sarah's call to Eagle Point reveals disturbing news. No answer from the main security line. Communications might be compromised. Try Richard's cell. No signal. Bradford could be jamming communications again. The roads to Eagle Point wind through forested hills. Herbert drives with practiced urgency, while Sarah attempts various communication methods. The Mercury emergency channel. It operates on different frequencies. Bradford might not think to block it. Sarah accesses the emergency radio in Herbert's car, an older model with specialized equipment. Eagle Point Command, this is Sarah Morgan. Authentication code Sierra Mercury 59. Emergency communication. Respond if possible. The radio crackles with static before a response comes through. Sarah, this is Grace. Bradford's here. He's taken control of the main facility. Our security team is pinned down. Are Richard and the children there? They arrived 20 minutes ago. Bradford was waiting. He's holding them in the command center. Is anyone hurt? Not yet. Bradford's demanding the original Prometheus codes and the evidence against him. Says he'll trade the hostages for them. We've alerted the FBI. They're en route. Tell everyone to stay in secure positions. Don't engage Bradford directly. There's something else, Sarah. Daniel is missing. He wasn't with the security team when Bradford attacked. He might be moving independently. Understood. We're 15 minutes out. Maintain this channel. Herbert accelerates as they approach Eagle Point. Bradford's desperate. That makes him unpredictable. Also vulnerable to mistakes. He doesn't know the facility as well as he thinks he does. Sarah checks her pocket, ensuring the dollar coin is secure. There's another entrance. Through the old tunnel system. Bradford might not know about the original Mercury access points. Worth trying. But he'll expect you to come for the children. I'm counting on it. They arrive near Eagle Point, stopping short of the main entrance where Bradford would have lookouts. Sarah leads Herbert through the forest to a concealed maintenance shed that hides an emergency entrance. The tunnel is dark but navigable. Emergency lighting casts long shadows as they move quietly toward the main facility. The old Mercury level should connect directly to the modern command center. If Bradford's there with the children, we can access it from below. And if he's watching that entrance too, then I'll give him what he wants. Me. They reach a junction in the tunnel system. Sarah pauses, listening. Do you hear that? Faint footsteps echo from a side passage. They take defensive positions as a figure emerges from the darkness. Daniel, Sarah, thank God. Daniel appears exhausted but uninjured. Bradford has Richard and the children in the command center, 6 armed men with him. I've been tracking their movements through the maintenance tunnels. The FBI is on their way, but Bradford's jamming standard communications. They'll be going in blind, not if we can get to the original Mercury broadcast system. It operates independently of the modern networks. That's in the command center. Where Bradford is, there's a secondary control panel in the power distribution room. One level below where they're holding the hostages. Can you access it? With your authentication token? Yes. But it would only give us communications, not control of the facility. That's enough. We need to coordinate with the FBI when they arrive. What about Richard and the children? I'm going to talk to Bradford. That's exactly what he wants, I know. But he's not thinking clearly right now. I can use that. They reach the power distribution room. Daniel quickly accesses the control panel while Sarah prepares to confront Bradford. Once I have his attention, get the emergency channel online. Direct the FBI to the secondary entrances where Bradford's men won't be watching. And if Bradford doesn't want to talk, he'll talk to me. This has always been personal between our families. 3 generations now. Sarah checks her weapon, then moves toward the access ladder that leads to the level above. Give me 10 minutes. Then restore communications, regardless of what you hear. Sarah climbs the ladder and moves through maintenance passages until she reaches an access panel near the command center. Through it, she can hear Bradford's voice. Your mother is taking her time, Matthew. Perhaps she doesn't care as much as I thought. A younger voice responds defiantly. You don't know anything about my mom. Bradford's laugh is hollow. I knew her father, her grandfather. I know the Morgan family better than most. Stubborn, self-righteous, always believing they know what's best for everyone else. Another voice. Richards joins in. This won't end well for you, James. The FBI knows you're here. Bradford dismisses this. By the time they navigate your mother's security measures, we'll be long gone. Once I have what I need. Sarah removes the access panel and steps into the command center. Looking for me, James? Bradford turns, unsurprised but cautious. He holds a pistol casually at his side. Sarah, right on schedule. Your children have been wondering where you were. Matthew and Emma sit with Richard at the console, surrounded by Bradford's armed men. Emma's eyes widen at the sight of her mother. Mom, it's okay, sweetheart. Everything's going to be fine. Bradford gestures with his weapon. Family reunion. How touching. Now, where are the original Prometheus codes and the evidence your father collected? Destroyed when you tried to activate Prometheus. You know that. Bradford's expression hardens. Don't play games with me, Sarah. William Morgan was too thorough to keep only one copy. Where is it? Why does it matter now? The evidence has been transmitted to federal authorities. Prometheus is shut down. It's over. Nothing is over. 20 years of work. The future of global security. Your family has destroyed everything I built. You built it on lies, theft, and murder. My father, my mother. Bradford's surprise is evident. Your mother? What fantasy has William filled your head with now? She was investigating your embezzlement from the Mercury project, just like my father investigated Prometheus decades later. Both died in staged car accidents. Bradford's expression shifts, calculating. If you believe that, then you'll also believe I won't hesitate to complete the pattern. 3 generations of Morgans, all tragically accident-prone. He raises his weapon toward the children. Sarah steps forward. This is between you and me, James. Let them go. Bradford considers this. The children can wait in the outer room with my men. Richard stays as insurance. And then you and I will conclude our family's long association. He nods to his men, who escort Matthew and Emma from the main command center into the adjacent room. Richard remains seated at the console, closely watched by one guard. Now, Sarah, the original codes and evidence. Where are they? I don't have them here. Bradford's patience visibly thins. Then where? In a safety deposit box. In Boston, along with instructions to release everything to the media if anything happens to me or my family. A classic insurance policy. William taught you well. Sarah takes a careful step forward. It doesn't have to end like this, James. Surrender now. Cooperate with the authorities. Your knowledge of Prometheus could still be valuable. Bradford laughs bitterly. Valuable? As what? A cautionary tale? A prisoner providing technical consultation from a cell? I was creating the ultimate security system. A shield against chaos, against human error. A shield that you controlled, that you could use to manipulate markets, influence elections, blackmail officials. Bradford's expression grows fervent. For the greater good. Do you know what I saw during the Cuban Missile Crisis? Not just the brink of war, but the fundamental weakness of democratic systems. Decisions by committee. Political calculations trumping security. We nearly destroyed civilization because leaders couldn't act decisively. My grandfather saw the same events and drew the opposite conclusion. He saw how individual human conscience, like Vasily Arkhipav's, prevented catastrophe. Bradford looks momentarily confused. Arkhipov, what does a Soviet submarine officer have to do with this? He refused to authorize a nuclear launch during the crisis. One man's judgment saved millions of lives. That's what my grandfather believed in. Human judgment, not automated control. Sarah reaches slowly into her pocket. He gave me Arkhipav's watch to remind me that systems don't save us. People do. She produces the antique pocket watch. Bradford's eyes fix on it with strange intensity. Where did William get that? From the man himself years later. A reminder of what was at stake. Bradford's expression shifts, revealing unexpected emotion. I was there, on the USS Randolph, when we were tracking the B-59. I was a junior communications officer, just like your grandfather. You knew? We all knew eventually. What almost happened that day. How close we came. Bradford lowers his weapon slightly, lost in memory. That's why I created Prometheus. To ensure no single human could bring us to the brink again. To create a system immune to panic, to error, to the weaknesses I saw that day. But you became the single point of failure. The one man with his finger on the button. Bradford shakes his head vehemently. I was creating balance, stability. William never understood that freedom without security is meaningless. And security without freedom is just another kind of prison. My grandfather understood that perfectly. A sudden commotion erupts outside the command center. Bradford raises his weapon again, aiming at Richard. What have you done? Given the FBI time to arrive. It's over, James, for real this time. Bradford backs toward a secondary exit, desperation in his eyes. I still have hostages. I still have options. The building's surrounded. Your men are already surrendering. There's nowhere to go. There's always somewhere for a man with the right resources. One final bolt hole. One last contingency. Bradford reaches the exit door, keeping his weapon trained on Richard. A fitting symmetry, isn't it? William took everything from me. Now I take everything from you. Bradford fires. Richard dives for cover as Sarah lunges forward. The bullet grazes her arm as she tackles Bradford. They struggle for the weapon as FBI agents breach the main entrance. In the chaos, Bradford breaks free and disappears through the exit. Sarah follows, determined not to let him escape again. The passage leads to the original Mercury emergency evacuation route, a narrow tunnel ascending to the surface. Bradford is several yards ahead, climbing rapidly. Give it up, James. There's no way out. Bradford continues climbing, reaching a heavy hatch at the top of the shaft. He struggles with the mechanism. There's always a way out, Sarah. Your grandfather taught me that much. The hatch won't budge. Years of disuse have sealed it shut. Bradford hammers at it frantically as Sarah approaches. It's over. Step away from the hatch. Bradford turns, weapon raised. I won't spend the rest of my life in prison. I won't let everything I built disappear. It already has. Prometheus is gone. Your company is under federal investigation, your reputation destroyed. Bradford's expression shifts from desperation to strange calm. Then there's nothing left but to ensure you don't enjoy your victory. He aims directly at Sarah, finger tightening on the trigger. A shot echoes through the tunnel. Bradford looks down in surprise at the spreading red stain on his chest. Behind Sarah, Daniel stands with his weapon raised. Bradford slumps against the wall, his own gun clattering to the ground. Should have seen that coming, always. Underestimated you, Sarah. Bradford's breathing becomes labored. Sarah approaches cautiously. Why go so far? Was it worth destroying so many lives? Bradford coughs, blood speckling his lips. You still don't understand. I was saving lives. Millions of them. Creating order. By appointing yourself the ultimate authority. By murdering anyone who got in your way. Bradford's eyes grow distant. History would have vindicated me. His breathing stops. Daniel checks for a pulse, then shakes his head. It's over. For real this time. Sarah stares at Bradford's body, feeling no triumph, only a profound weariness. 3 generations. So much damage, so many lives affected. Daniel helps her to her feet. Come on, your children need you. They return to the command center where FBI agents have secured the area. Matthew and Emma run to Sarah, embracing her tightly. Mom, you're hurt. It's just a scratch, sweetheart. I'm okay. Richard approaches, relief evident in his expression. Bradford won't hurt anyone else ever again. The FBI agent in charge approaches. Ms. Morgan, we need your statement, but it can wait until tomorrow. For now, we'll need to secure this facility as a crime scene. Eagle Point is still private property, Agent Carson. We'll cooperate fully, but my people need to return to their homes. They've been through enough today. The agent considers this, then nods. We'll work around the community's needs. But the command center and all evidence remains under federal control. Understood. Herbert will coordinate with your team. As the FBI secures the area, Sarah leads her family outside where the Eagle Point community has gathered, anxiously awaiting news. Bradford is dead. The FBI is securing the facility, but Eagle Point itself remains ours. We can return to our homes. Relief spreads through the crowd. Grace approaches with a medical kit. Let's look at that arm. Then perhaps you should get some rest. It's been quite a day. Sarah looks around at the gathered community, at the faces of people who stood with her, who defended their home, who believed in her grandfather's vision. Not yet. I think we all need some time together first, to process what's happened, to remember why we're here. Daniel organizes a community gathering in the main hall. As residents share food and support each other, Sarah stands with Richard and the children, watching the community in action. This is what my grandfather built. Not just buildings and technology, but people, connections, a real community. Richard nods in understanding. He'd be proud of how you've defended it, how you've made it your own. Matthew looks up at his mother with newfound respect. Mom, will you tell us about great-grandpa William, the real story? Sarah smiles, placing a hand on her son's shoulder. I'll tell you everything I know about him, about your grandfather John, about your grandmother you never met. It's time you understood your heritage. Emma tugs at her sleeve. Can we stay here forever? Sarah exchanges a look with Richard. This is your home now, both of you, for as long as you want it to be. Part of the time with me, part with your father. Richard adds supportively. 2 homes, double the stability. Sarah addresses the gathered community, her voice strong despite her exhaustion. Today marks the end of a long shadow over Eagle Point. James Bradford can no longer threaten what we've built here. But his death doesn't define us. What defines us is what we do next, how we build, how we grow, how we serve as an example of what a community can be. My grandfather created Eagle Point after witnessing how close humanity came to self-destruction. He believed in resilience, in preparedness, but most of all in the capacity of individuals to make the right choices, even in the darkest moments. That's our legacy, not secrets or hidden technology or classified projects, but ordinary people choosing to build something extraordinary together. The community responds with warm approval. As Sarah concludes her impromptu speech, she feels a weight lifting, the burden of secrets, of danger, of uncertainty about the future. Later that evening, as the children sleep peacefully in their rooms at the trustee cabin, Sarah sits on the porch with Daniel and Richard, watching the stars emerge above Eagle Point. What will you do with the Mercury facility now? The government will want access. They can study it, learn from it. But Eagle Point remains independent. That's non-negotiable. And Prometheus? There will be others who might try to rebuild it. Let them try. We'll have the fail-safe ready. Some technologies are too dangerous to deploy, no matter how noble the intention. Richard looks toward the cabin where his children sleep. I never imagined this outcome would come when Bradford recruited me. A sustainable community, shared custody, a legacy worth protecting. Life rarely follows the path we expect. My grandfather taught me that, even from a distance. Daniel raises his coffee mug in a toast. To William Morgan, who saw further than most. Sarah raises her own mug. And to everyone who stood with us, who chose to defend something worthy, even at great risk. Richard completes the toast. To Eagle Point, and to new beginnings. As they sit in companionable silence, Sarah fingers the dollar coin in her pocket. The key that unlocked not just doors and safes, but a future she could never have imagined. A dollar's worth of metal that revealed a legacy beyond price. 1 week later, the Eagle Point community has returned to normal operations. Repairs are complete, and federal investigators have concluded their on-site work. Sarah stands at her grandfather's grave in the small community cemetery, placing fresh flowers beside the headstone. You were right, grandfather, about everything. Bradford, the community, even me. She places Archipov's pocket watch on the grave marker. I'm keeping the dollar. Hope you don't mind. It seems I still have doors to unlock. Daniel approaches quietly, respecting the private moment. The children are waiting. It's time for the ceremony. Sarah nods, taking one last look at the grave. He'd have enjoyed this day. At the community center, residents have gathered for a special occasion. A new plaque is being dedicated, commemorating Eagle Point's true origins and purpose. Sarah stands with her children as Herbert unveils the bronze marker. Eagle Point, founded 1980 by Colonel William Morgan, born from the lessons of the Cuban Missile Crisis and dedicated to the proposition that security comes not from control, but from cooperation, from community, from the courage of individuals to stand for what matters most. Sarah steps forward to address the gathered community. This plaque tells the truth of who we are. No more secrets, no more hidden purposes. Eagle Point began as part of a classified program, but it continues as something far more important, a model for sustainable, resilient community living. The FBI has finished their investigation here. The Mercury Command Center will remain sealed, a relic of a different era. But everything else, our homes, our systems, our way of life, continues. With one significant change. Today, we open Eagle Point to visitors, to researchers, students, families interested in sustainable living. We have knowledge to share, a legacy to extend beyond these boundaries. My grandfather built walls to protect what mattered. Now it's our turn to open doors, to demonstrate what's possible when people come together with purpose and principle. The community applauds as Sarah unveils a new sign at the entrance to Eagle Point. The familiar logo now accompanied by the words, Center for Resilient Community Design. Visitors welcome. As the ceremony concludes, Matthew approaches his mother. Do you think other places will build communities like this? I hope so. That's the point of opening our doors, to show what's possible. Emma tugs at Sarah's hand. Can I be in charge of the butterfly garden tours? Sarah laughs, lifting her daughter into a hug. Official butterfly ambassador. I think we can arrange that. Richard joins them carrying a small package, special delivery from Herbert. He thought you should have this. Sarah opens the package to find a framed photograph of her grandfather as a young officer, standing proudly in his uniform. Beside it, a small note in Herbert's handwriting. The future he imagined is in good hands. Sarah looks around at Eagle Point, at the sustainable buildings, the renewable energy systems, the gardens and orchards, and most importantly, the people who make it all work. Not just a monument to her grandfather's vision, but a living legacy evolving under her stewardship. She takes the dollar coin from her pocket, running her thumb over the worn edge where her grandfather's initials are engraved alongside the coordinates that led her here. $1, the key to everything that matters, not the dollar itself, what it represents. E pluribus unum. From many, the fundamental truth at the heart of Eagle Point. 1 year later, Eagle Point has evolved from a secluded community to a national model for sustainable living. The Visitor Center welcomes government officials, students, and families seeking to learn from its systems. The Mercury Command Center remains preserved but declassified, a museum to Cold War history and a reminder of how close we came to the brink. Sometimes the most powerful legacies aren't built in marble or steel, but in the quiet choices of those who serve without recognition. My grandfather and others like him saw a world teetering on destruction and dedicated their lives to creating alternatives. They weren't perfect. The Mercury Project operated in shadows, made compromises that history might question. But their fundamental purpose was preservation of what makes America worth defending. Bradford wasn't wrong about everything. Systems do fail. Human judgment isn't infallible. Security matters. But he forgot what my grandfather never did. That freedom must be the foundation of any true security. That control without consent becomes tyranny, no matter how benevolent its intent. The dollar coin sits in its display case now, a reminder of where we started. Not the inheritance itself, but the key that unlocked it. Sometimes I take it out, feel its weight in my hand, and remember that great endeavors often begin with small symbols. Matthew graduates from high school next year. He's already been accepted to the Naval Academy, following a family tradition of service that I never knew existed until finding Eagle Point. Emma's Butterfly Garden has become a cornerstone of our educational programs, teaching visitors about ecological balance and environmental stewardship. Richard has found his own path, joining the advisory board that helps communities across the country develop their own resilience programs. We're not the family we once were, but we've become something better, partners in a legacy larger than ourselves. The federal government finally acknowledged the Mercury project officially last month. Veterans of the program received long overdue recognition for their service during the darkest days of the Cold War. Many didn't live to see it, including my grandfather. But their work endures. Eagle Point continues to evolve. We've established a foundation to help other communities develop sustainable systems. 5 new sites have broken ground, each adapted to local needs, but sharing the core principles my grandfather believed in. The world still faces threats: climate instability, resource competition, the eternal human tendency toward conflict. But now there are alternatives, models of cooperation that offer different paths forward. That's the true value of a dollar, not what it can buy, but what it can build when placed in the right hands at the right moment. My grandfather believed in America enough to create a sanctuary for its values, even when he feared those values might be lost. That's a form of patriotism too easily forgotten, the kind that questions, that builds, that preserves what matters most when it's most at risk. The next generation will face their own crises, their own moments of decision, but they'll have Eagle Point as a blueprint, a starting point. Sometimes that's all we can offer the future. Not solutions, but better questions. Not perfect systems, but more resilient communities. And sometimes that's enough.